So that's part of what I do. Second thing I do is I am often the voice, certainly the voice of Naspa, but I think more broadly about being the voice of student affairs in a broad set of areas where student affairs perspective I think is important. Let's take the media for one. I probably take between 3 and 5 media calls a week sometimes, depending on what the issues are. And I have a belief that if the Chronicle of Higher Education or Inside Higher Ed or Washington Post, New York Times or CNN or NPR is going to talk about the student experience, about how students are experiencing college, but they should at least check in first with Naspa or me and hear about a broader set of how we're coming. So that may sound arrogant to you. It's just that I really believe that when you talk about the student experience, you should talk about the people like yourselves who are actually on the ground doing the work. So some of that's with media, some of it's with college presidents, with provosts, with chief information officers, with admissions. I travel a lot in my job. Most of at least half the travel is presenting, speaking, or working with people that are not Naspa members. So how do we elevate the work that we do in a time when our work always isn't inherently valued by others in the past. And then the third thing I do is, is sort of related, which is how we think about student affairs as a kind of entire enterprise and how we can influence its direction and its success by advocating for a certain set of issues and things that are going on in higher ed. So not just having a chance to say something, it's what you say. What do we care about? What are our values? And so some of that, a lot of the work really is kind of oriented around that. And so let me just talk about a few of those and to kind of get at this larger sense of what I think is happening in higher education. So one thing that's happening in higher education is we are probably in the most transformational, change-oriented part of higher ed that we've ever been in my almost 40 years. And a lot of that's is being driven by fiscal issues. So whether you're a small private or a land grant or a public or working for another association, no matter whatever your background is, we are moving into a period of time in higher ed where resources are continually being constrained. You probably know that states over the last decade have been largely removing support of higher education. You all know, because you all went to college, that college affordability has become a significant issue. It used to be back in the 90s and the 2000s that if your institution was struggling financially, you just raised tuition, or you admitted more students. Well, there's two things going on in higher ed. We can't just raise tuition anymore because the public's concern about affordability has gotten to the point where most campuses are raising, if there is at all, very, very small. There's no new money coming from the state. And in fact, there are fewer students graduating from high school today than there were 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. So we're seeing a decline in the number of students graduating from high school. So there are many campuses that are having a hard time even meeting their class. And so all this sort of rolls up to be sort of a financial crisis of sorts. And to the point where many people would say that the financial model of higher education that we currently have is not sustainable. Something has to change. Well, there are some places where there's not a zero-sum game. In higher education, there is. There's this pie, and there's this much money, and everybody wants a piece of it. And oftentimes, student affairs doesn't, if you have to debate between us and the English professor, we always lose, right? I mean, you gotta keep the professor or the computer science professor. And yet, we know that without student affairs, without the kind of work that we do to support students, many students wouldn't graduate. And so now we start thinking about what is our value add? What do we provide? So we spend a lot of time thinking about health, safety, and wellness. That's a key part of what we think about. Everything from the mental health issues that are affecting college students. We know that, if you look at almost every study that we see that's dramatically increased over the last decade or so of students who have serious psychological issues once they, while they're in college. So these students wouldn't graduate without some support. The CDC just released a new report that said that across America, youth 18 to 24, that the suicide rates over the last decade increased 70%. That's a pretty hefty statistic. We sort of see this in the media. You see this in lots of different places. Campuses have experienced this. But paying attention to the serious psychological issues like anxiety and depression and helplessness, loneliness, these experiences that many of our students have are important. And much of the work that we do in student affairs helps create environments that maybe support students. So this we have interactive literature on alcohol and other drugs. We're spending a lot of time talking about Greek life right now. Some of you are at the College Park in George Mason. Some of you have Greek life systems. There's been a lot of national attention paid to hazing in particular, and the death of young men due to alcohol poisoning, essentially, and the rituals of hazing that continue both in Greek life, but also in other places, bands and athletic teams and other places. And so that's a health safety law. Alcohol in general is. The opioid crisis is. Even though the opioid crisis hasn't come to college really in a big way, we're starting to see some incursions of this more heroin or opiate sort of addiction. The whole issue around affordability from a health, safety, wellness standpoint and how it affects food insecurity and housing insecurity. I was talking to a vice president of student affairs yesterday, and we were kind of reflecting about a modern campus today. Which the good thing is that student affairs has really stepped up. The explosion of food pantries and looking at housing issues, other affordability issues that 10 years ago we weren't talking about. Those issues were still there 10 years ago, but they hadn't been kind of elevated. And so that's an example of some places where we're trying to do some work. Even we have a grant with the Gates Foundation in emergency aid. The idea that a small $200 or $300 financial crisis for many college students, for low-income students, might be the difference between staying in school and nothing. So how would we expand the availability and awareness of these students? So we think about health, safety, and wellness, and then we start getting controversial speakers and who comes to campus and how do we keep students safe and how do students experience Richard Spencer when he comes to campus and the debate between free First Amendment and free expression and how our students are actually feeling the relationships of what's being said on campus. That's a health safety. So you start looking at all these things, you start thinking about, well, what's on the president of the university's weekly cabinet agenda? What you start, kind of acknowledging is that these issues around health, safety, and wellness are often in the top, 7 of 10, 5 of them are student affairs issues. So while there's a debate about how we're going to afford everything, it's hard to imagine how we're going to really have a successful collegiate environment without some of the support networks we've built and we've created. The other area that I wanted to comment on is that we are spending a lot of time thinking about, and that is issues around degree attainment and the reality as a country, as a nation, that as we reflect back in the last 10 years, and we start looking at data, we see a large gap in disparity between who is achieving a college education. Because it's no surprise to you that students who are low income, first generation students, and students of color attain a college degree at about half the rate of their more privileged peers. And so if that's the case, we either accept that as a reality and say, well, that's just the way it is, or we think that there ought to be a different reality. And that's kind of the approach we're taking. And we really take an approach that for us to succeed as a nation, and also from a moralistic standpoint, we have to do something to improve and change the persistence, access, persistence, and completion for historically marginalized groups. And so we're doing a lot of work looking at how we focus on low-income students. We just launched a Center for First-Generation Student Success, which is a grant-funded program that launched in January about how we support first-generation students. Efforts also to look at how we support, in particular, Hispanic Latino students, African American students, Native American students who have the largest gap between attainment gaps. And of course, as I mentioned, low-income, first-generation, and part of the intersectionality between all those groups. But that I think is becoming a national priority. It certainly was under the Obama administration. And President Obama was one of the first to sort of say, this is how many college graduates we need, and we have got to do something about the attainment gap here. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is focusing on the Luna Foundation and many of the associations in D.C. What we're trying to talk about is what is the unique contribution we make to support low-income students, first-generation students. Trying to find what are those levers, what are those mechanisms to do that. It's a complicated environment about what helps students be successful. But we can't assume that the existing structures that we have will work effectively when our history essentially tells us that we have to change the culture of higher education. Maybe some of you were in a room like this. I know I was, where we sort of sit in a room and some administrator or faculty member or class or says to a group, look to your left, look to your right. In 6 months, one of you won't be here. So that's a model built upon failure. And so when we look at our history as American, as a nation about higher education, we see so many students not succeeding. Well, we kind of got what we asked for, right? So that's the model we wanted to build. Look to your left, look to your right, one's not going to be here, because that was the outcome that we got. And finally, I think we're probably saying we should build a model that's built on success, not on failure. How do we create the kind of supports and mechanisms necessary to help students succeed? What we know is it's expensive to do this, right? Because what we know a lot of things about student success. One of them is that personal contact, coaching, and mentoring, advising is a huge difference for particularly first-gen low-income students. Learning communities, focus on factors that are inhibit success, like finances. And look at programs that have been run out of New York City as a CUNY program. They're providing funds for books and subway fare and learning communities and coaches and mentors, and they're able to actually make a difference in the attainment rate for almost any group of students with resources. So our challenge as student affairs professionals, how do we re-engineer what we're doing and think differently what we're doing to be able to provide those kinds of critical resources? And that's going to probably mean, this is advice to you as young professionals, I see so many people here, that my advice would be, to the extent that you can, be a generalist. That some of the specializations may not make it in the next decade. If you're a student activities professional, student activities is probably one of those places that's going to get undervalued in the next decade. And so, make sure that you're making, continue to develop an expertise in advising or career services or in some other area so that you can have a broader perspective. And recognize that campuses, retention and persistence and completion are really important drivers for campuses, but also if you're a state institution, most states have performance-based funding now that's valuing those metrics. So thinking about how you can get yourself in focus, that's going to be part of the work. I think that's going to be one of the challenges of student affairs. How do we rethink what student affairs is to be focused on communication? That's it's now 1:29. No time for questions. But let me just say thank you for coming. We've been in this building now for about 9 years, I guess. Huh? So 11. Okay, so yeah, so it's 7 years. And we used to be down by Front Circle. And our hope for this space has always been a place where anybody from New York, anywhere in the country, can come and see kind of a national home. So I'm really pleased that you're all here. It's a cool space. You can see the roof. It's a hot day, but you see what you can do. But I'm really glad you're here, and I hope you have an informative day. You'll get, I have some calls up this afternoon, but I'll be in my office. Hopefully you can buy, even if I'm on the work phone, you come in. I've got a fantastic view of the Capitol, which is very unique and kind of cool. You can see my picture of me and President Obama, which is prized possession. But come in and hopefully get a chance to interact with some of you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks you all. Remote people, thank you for. I hope that was okay. I wasn't really looking at you very much. I was looking at them, but hopefully that worked.
Yeah, you're in the camera.
All right, good, cool. All right, talk to you later.
Great. We wanted to give some brief overview just as far as the rest of the day, schedules, and then kind of navigating the experience. Naspa is on social media handles. Naspa Pics is our Instagram handle, Naspa Twitter, Facebook, y'all can read. But if not today, I think we're pushing out information, general things about Naspa, about student affairs, so definitely take a look and follow. As far as today, so Jordana and I are going to talk a little bit around Naspa overview and then getting you connected, so careers and constituent groups. Specifically, how do you network or how do you work with, or what are the resources that Naspa offers to think about networking, and then we'll do some networking in this room as well. Next, we'll have our professional development staff come in and talk about events and professional development, both how we do it here at Naspa, but then you as a future student affairs professional or current student affairs professional, how do you infuse professional development into your kind of experience, whether it's at Naspa or someplace else. And then Scarlett talking about higher education policy. quick raffle and closing questions towards the end, and then an office tour and reception. We're going to play it a little bit by ear. As you can see, the sun's technically still coming out, but it might downpour, as y'all in the DC area know that happened yesterday. No, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility. We'll be calling, but we definitely will still have a reception. And I mentioned the Naspa Hill Days. Theoretically, about 40 of those individuals RSVP to come here as well. So there'll be more individuals for y'all to meet. So again, Nathan, and then Jordana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jordana Taylor. I'm the Associate Director for Recruitment Engagement and Volunteerism here at Naspa. I have been at Naspa for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was at George Washington University, and my longest time was at Marymount University, just across the river, for 13 years. So I have a background in higher education, but not in student affairs. I work primarily with enrollment management and admissions. So, but actually, give me one moment. We're going to see if I can get this to be a full screen for. Wonderful. So really quickly, how many of you right now are current NASPA members? Awesome, so about half the room, that's fantastic. Certainly for those of you who are members, towards the end of this or at any point during this time, please feel free to just chat with me or Nathan and let us know what things that you want to continue to be involved in, or if you're a brand new member to NASPA and you've gone on the website and you've been overwhelmed by all the different choices and opportunities that NASPA has to offer, we'll be happy to sort of put you and steer you in the right direction. And for those of you who are either part of different professional associations, so you haven't joined a professional association and you're sort of looking to see which one is the right fit for you, anyone on our team would be more than happy to chat. So really quickly, we'd like to do some introductions just so we can all see who's in the room, and you have your directions right there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and start with you, Michael.
So I'm Mike Daly, EM Head. I just started at American University about 4 weeks ago, and I work in academic support.
Nicole Canizero, she, her, hers, also in academic support at University of Texas. Brianna O'Neill, she, her, hers. I work at the University of Maryland, primarily academic advice.
I'm Irene Hens. I also work at the University of Maryland College Park with Brianna. We're kind of the teachers in the academic department, re-advising, and all of this. My name is Elizabeth. You're the whole young here. I'm from Georgia University. I work in the office of how we recognize. Hi, I'm Susie J. Also at the University of Maryland College Park, and I am in our student league.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Carr. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm at School of Passion, the nonprofit here in Sweden.
Anthony Wise, pronouns he, his. I'm with Georgetown University.
Hi, I'm Steve Taylor. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am currently a graduate assistant in Office of Student Conduct at the University of Maryland College Park.
Hi everyone, I'm Leah Mahdi. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also at the University of Maryland in the Office of Leadership and Student.
Hi everyone, my name is Armand Lee-Wanag. My pronouns are good. I'm also at the University of Maryland College Park, and I'm going to speak about the office.
Hi everyone, Natasha here. She, her pronouns. I'm a second-year master's student in the Student Program at the University of Maryland, and my position supports student organization.
Hey everybody, I'm Taji Blackson, Assistant Program Coordinator at George Washington University for the Center for Student Engagement.
Hi everyone, I'm Patrick Sullivan, he, him, his pronouns. I am also an Assistant Program Coordinator at George Washington in the Center for Student.
Hi, my name is Brittany Abraham. I work at George Washington as well, and I work with our first generation.
Hi everyone, I'm Padilla. I'm she, her. I'm at George Washington as well. I'm a grad student, and right now I'm looking to.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandra Brew. I'm at University of Graduate Student working in the Office of President. Hi everyone, my name is Greta Houston. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a second year grad student at UC Madison, also an officer. Denise Carroll, she, hers, and I work at the National College Access Network and nonprofit that works with college access. My name is Ruthia Johnson, she, hers. I'm actually a career and student hiring.
Welcome.
Awesome. So as Jordana talked about, I think within the association management space, and Kevin mentioned, there are associations for association professionals. There are meetings for meeting planners, and we're fairly involved in those areas. And as we think about engagement, this is what we talk about within the nonprofit space. So for us, replace members, so that's who we're working with. Replace members with students. So think about this when you're working with your students. The cycles are very similar. If you're planning an event, so you plan to target, you recruit people to come, you assess it, you do the engagement, you assess it again, you celebrate, you repeat it over and over again. Or if we think about our students that we're trying to get engaged and involved, maybe they're observing us, kind of looking at us, then they maybe follow something on social media, maybe then they'll endorse us if they go to an event, they contribute, they own, and then they do. This is kind of ideally where we want people to go. Or we think of the connection that you might have with the organization. I know many of you are kind of on that low tactical, well, you're here, so that's something if you're not a member, but you belong, and then you learn, then you become more involved. Maybe you submit a program to present at our annual meeting, or you go to our conferences to find problems. Then maybe you want to partner. So if you donate to our foundation, or you think about ways that you can give back. The problem is, and for those of you that are new to NASPA or newer to NASPA, this might actually be your experience. So being over 15,000 members, having over 35 knowledge communities, having 7 different regions that you can engage with on a local level. You maybe know where you want to go, but you don't know how NASPA necessarily contributes to that. Or maybe you've heard things around how NASPA engages, and that doesn't necessarily fit. So we're going to hand out a quick survey now. If you have a pen, great. If not, we have some for you.
I'll help with
You're not necessarily going to share this, but answer this with 5 being the top reason you think people join. Those joining virtually, you see on the screen. So 5 is the top reason, 4 the second reason, 3, 2, 1. So yeah, so you're only picking 5. So live, we're running ahead of schedule. So you're going to share with the group. Here we go. So Colleen's going to tabulate for us. So maybe we can start on this side if you just want to read. So your 5 first, 4, 3, 2, 1. And a little bit slow so Colleen can. Actually, is it better just to go down for you? Yeah. So starting at the very top, anyone that you have the number, say which one it is and then the number that it is. Colleen, go.
Go ahead and just share your top one, as they go down. So I've listed networking with others in the field. 2, learning best practices in their profession. 3, advancing in their position. 4, discounts on products or meeting person. And 5, the association. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Number 1, I have conferences, learning best practices in their profession. 3, networking with others, field. 4, prestige or promoting. 5, access to specialized and worker information. Okay, so now, number 1, I'm networking with others in field. Number 2, conferences. Number 3, continuing education. Number 4, learning best practices. And number 5, association publication.
For number 1, I put learning best practices in the profession. For number 2, I did networking with others in the field. For number 3, I did access to career resources. For number 4, I did advocacy. And for number 5, I did advancing in their profession.
For number 1, I did networking with others in the field. Number 2, access to industry thought leaders. Number 3, learning best practices in their profession. Number 4, accreditation or certification. Number 5, access to career.
For number 1, I have networking with others. Number 2, conferences, trade shows. Number 3, advancing their position. 4, access to specialized and current information. And 5, access to industry benchmarks. I have a question. Those 5 are like high fun or what they are?
We've done it both ways. So why don't you say
Whatever you think is your top. Start with your top one and then work your way.
Okay, so starting from the top, learning best practices in their profession, career, conferences, trade shows, the advancing their position, networking with others in the field, and be responsible.
So starting from the top, networking with others in the field, conferences, trade shows, and then access to specialized and or current information. Next is learning best practices in their profession, and then advancing in their profession.
Okay, I had for number 1, prestige implementation. For 2, learning best practices, learning advancing in their position. 4, networking with others. 5, access to career.
My top was networking with others in the field, learning best practices in the profession, access to career resources, conferences, and association.
My top was networking with others in the field, learning best practices in the profession, access to specialized and current information, conferences / trade shows, and advancing their position. My top was access to specialized and current information, learning best practices in the profession, access to industry benchmark studies, access to career resources, conferences, trade shows.
What's the start?
Number 1, we network up in the field. Number 2, education. 3, discounts on products. Okay. Number 4, access to resources. And 5,
learning best practices, session, for access to peer resources, advancing your position, conference trade shows. So my top was networking with others in the field, access to learning resources, and what learning is. Learning is practicing their discussion and advancing in their
Number 4, conferences and trade shows, access to career resources, networking with others, and access to
One, I have networking with others in the field. 2, learning best practices and discussions. 3, conference and trade shows. 4, I put association publications, journals, and 5,
for my top, I had conferences and trade shows, and then learning best practices in their profession. Third is access to industry thought leaders, networking with others in the field, and then access to careers. I have networking with others in the field, conferences, trade shows, access to career resources, learning best practices in their profession, and then access to specialized and/or current information.
I had conferences and trade shows, working with others, field, access to specialized information, access to career resources, and then best practices.
Thank you all for indulging us while Kylie does some tallying. So we've done this multiple ways where we've added up the scores, or I think what we did here was tallying, but most likely, I'm just going through what I heard individuals talking about. So this was done in a membership marketing benchmarking report. So it's been done for about 8 years now. Do you have the results?
not that bad, math. So the top 3 were 5 networking with others in the field and learning best practices in their profession and conference communication.
Great. And as you'll see, that will actually align with what's on this chart. So 683 associations were surveyed. Individual associations were one-on-one basis. So I joined the organization as an individual. Trade is you represent a company or you represent an organization. Naspa is actually a combination. So your institution can join as an organization, or you can join as an individual. And Jordana will talk a little bit about that and a little bit around our membership structure. But you'll see networking is the top reason, learning best practices, attending conference trade shows, current information is tied. This past year in 2018, career resources was probably mentioned a little bit more here, but I think for the student affairs profession, if you look at the trajectory, most entry-level positions require a master's. So I think that's why NASPA in particular and associations play a part in the career side. Up on that. So again, I think why people join and kind of that sort of work are those 3 main reasons. And that's what we really see within the association. I didn't unmute, did I? All right. So I think that's goals. And I think as we look at kind of what we do within the organization, how we navigate, how we manage, that's the goal of what we do. So NASPA is a multi-layered organization, and what we're going to do, Jordana and I, is go through kind of the general overview of what the organization offers. Obviously, we can't go through the 15,000 members and all the benefits in this short kind of 40 minutes next, but our goal is to give you the broad overview, and then we're going to ask you, are we missing anything? So we heard a couple academic advisors, a couple within student engagement and enrollment. So that's the end goal of what we're trying to work at. Yeah. Jordana, what does Naspa mean?
Well, Naspa used to have what's an actual acronym that would follow a traditional acronym form, is the National Association of Student Personnel Administrators. Obviously, the student affairs profession has changed at higher education. So today we are known as NASPA. NASPA doesn't stand for any specific thing other than that it's the name of our organization. But we're student affairs administrators in higher education. So part of that reasoning, again, as Kevin and Nathan have mentioned, is the variety of things that have sort of fallen under the umbrella of student affairs, student personnel services, and higher education in general. We were founded in 1919 as the National Association of Deans and Advisors of Men. We actually have a really great link down here if you want to learn a little bit more about the history of NASPA. We are closing out our 100-year anniversary at our conference in Los Angeles this coming March. And so we've seen some really wonderful changes. A lot of them align, obviously, with what's happening within higher education and student affairs. But I would encourage you, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the history of the organization and why NASPA has continued to be one of the leading voices and really the first and foremost association for our student affairs professionals, you can read about it more in our history.
It's actually a really interactive timeline. There's pictures of all of our past presidents, as well as our namesakes. We definitely recommend that you look at that today.
And NASPA today is pretty worldwide. As you can see, we have over 15,000 individual members, 1,300 institutions. We have 7 U.S. regions. So how many of you who are in the DC area think that this is it? This is where you're going to be for your career, for the long term? How many of you, I mean, I'm a long-term lifer. I'm actually probably the most DC native person at NASPA. I've lived in the area for over 25 years. But we also have 2 global areas, and we have over 29 countries that are represented, because what we're seeing is that institutions around the world are starting to adopt a lot of practices that we here in the United States are probably much more familiar with and have really deeply rooted within our institutions. But wherever you are in the country or around the world, there is going to be an opportunity to connect with student affairs professionals and higher education professionals by being part of and associated with NASPA. So again, one of the #1 things that you all mentioned and that the association survey mentioned was the fact that everybody wants to network. I'm sure you hear that. You've heard it in your master's programs, you've heard it at work. You probably tell your students the same thing, that if they want to be successful within their leadership positions or when they go and look for their careers, that they need to network. 15,000 networking opportunities is a pretty big number. So you can really get very specific about who you want to interact with, especially if you're just starting out in your career, if you're in grad school, if you're transitioning into higher education, to try to really figure out where is the right place for you within the higher education area. Or you can start looking, specifically at different content areas as well. And Nathan and I will go over a couple of the ones that we have here at NASPA for you. So some categories of the membership that we have, as Nathan mentioned, we're an organization that serves both institutional and individual members. Our institutional memberships are really wonderful in that those who are part of institutions can see the commitment that your Vice President for Student Affairs or your most senior Student Affairs Officer has made to the advancement of the profession in the field itself. We can certainly let you know if you are not aware that you are at a member institution. Looking at your name tags, I can probably tell you if you are at one. There are a lot of benefits to the institutional membership beyond just being part of NASPA as an institution. There are membership benefits that trickle down in terms of the cost of your membership and the access that you'll be able to have to a variety of content. And then we have a variety of individual memberships as well. As you can see, we start really at the undergraduate level. and go all the way through our, what we consider our voting delegates, or somebody who's the most senior student affairs officer on campus. We have emeritus memberships for staff who have retired, but want to still stay involved with the profession. And we also have memberships for those who are working at nonprofit and for-profit organizations that do serve higher education and student affairs professionals. A few of our benefits, you can obviously look all of this up online. So what we've chosen to highlight here are some of the things that, as a member, we think are really important and are maybe good starting points, especially for those of you who may not have had a chance to really explore the website, or if you're just looking at Naspa for the first time, to see what some of the things that we have. So obviously we have access to some really wonderful publications. If you are in grad school, if continuing education is important to you, if you want to see what the most current research is that's happening within your field or in higher ed in general, you have access to 3 of our scholarly journals as well as 2 online journals. And they run everything from women in student affairs to community colleges, and everything in between. So having access to a lot of this information is really great. You can see what your colleagues are doing in terms of the scholarly work and research that they're putting out there. We have a lot of grants and scholarships that we offer to NASPA members through the NASPA Foundation. So we have grants to assist with costs to take the GREs if you're interested in getting your master's or perhaps a doctoral program in student affairs if you needed to do that, grants and scholarships to attend different conferences, and for our annual conference as well. We do have a great online learning community with hundreds of live briefings and online professional development. One thing that I think has really changed is when we think of professional development, we think of physically going to a conference, wearing a badge, sitting in on sessions in a room that's too cold or too warm. But right now, there's a lot of content that we offer in our online learning community. And so if you have a staff, or how many of you have staff who are working for you, whether it's students or professionals? So sometimes you want to take your entire staff to a conference that's usually not very feasible, either logistically or budget-wise. So the online learning community is a really great place where you can gather people, for lunch and watch a webinar and have a discussion. And that in and of itself can really provide great professional development to everybody. We also have discounted registrations to our NASPA events. As you can see, we have a searchable membership directory where you can look for members as a member in different ways. So you can look for people in your state, in your region, in your content area. Maybe you're looking to connect with somebody with a specific title or in a specific level. So if you're a new professional and you're interested in a director or like a mid-level, senior level position and you want to connect with someone, you can search that way as well. And I think that's a really great option for people. We have regional drive-in programs and regional programming. For those of you who did your master's, how many of you did your master's outside of the DC area? Do you think that some of the schools in DC probably have a very different regional feel as far as how they do things on campus versus how they did them where? So I think one of the nice things about connecting to the different regions, whether you're a student there or if you're going to be working in that region, is you get to sort of see some of those differences. So somebody may run a program, an orientation program, very much like this in the Midwest, that's going to be probably a little bit different than they do it maybe in some of our southern regions. Again, we mentioned our large span in terms of our regions and global areas, but we also have multiple professional groups, institutional divisions. We have divisions that are for small colleges and universities, some for community colleges as well. And then there's also the volunteers. You can volunteer at NASPA for a variety of things. You can do things as simple as reviewing programs for our conference. So if you always wanted to sort of see like the behind the scenes, how programs are reviewed and approved to be part of our conferencing programming, you can do that through Volunteer Central. You can serve on committees. And you can also develop new skills because a lot of the volunteer positions may be in areas that you're trying to explore. So if you've never really done programming before and that's something you'd like to explore, some of our volunteer opportunities is a great way to do that.
So again, that was kind of a broad overview of the programming, and we'll go more explicitly into each of these areas. Kevin talked about our strategic planning process. So the board did just meet last week. They approved a revamp of our strategic plan, not public yet, but we'll hear it soon. But we're actually taking the next 6 months to revise the plan. So currently the plan overviews public policy, online programming, going global, research, and then the student affairs experience within Naspa. Most likely those 5 areas are going to stay the same, but the meat underneath them will be shifting and changing. So we did do an all Naspa. We asked our constituent groups to provide feedback on the current plan, and we'll be spending the next 6 months, as I mentioned, asking for feedback. So if you are a current member or not, go to our strategic planning page to see what's there, and we'll kind of see where our next plan goes. As Jordana mentioned, we're taking the Disneyland approach and taking a year-long celebration of our 100th anniversary. So we kicked off in Philadelphia, and we'll be closing in LA, where we'll be announcing our strategic plan. One of the pieces that I've really appreciated working at Naspa 11 years and working with individuals interested in student affairs is that, in particular, for those of you that want the student affairs experience as a practitioner, we really do run the gamut, and we really can serve you throughout your entire year. So starting as a student, whether it's the GREs, as Jordana talked about, or our Naspa Undergraduate Fellows program, which is a leadership program for students from traditionally unrepresented, historically disenfranchised backgrounds. We give them a membership. We do leadership retreats that are complementary to them, all the way to, if you're a new professional or mid-level, localized institutes, or regional conferences, or leadership opportunities within the KC, all the way to when you're a vice president of student affairs and the networking that comes along. With 15,000 members, with almost 8,000 individuals at our annual meeting, which happens in March, you have the opportunity to sit next to a VP at the lunch or in that educational session, or find individuals that are really interested in what you feel is a very myopic topic. You know, we have programs on homelessness, food insecurity, and those sorts of things that, again, because we have so many members, it really does run your experience throughout the entire time.
One thing that's not specifically mentioned here, primarily because this looks at your career journey from a very administrative sort of point of view, is the role that our faculty play as well within Naspa. We have a great group of faculty who work with us and who help us, especially with the NEST program. We just had a leadership institute recently, and we had a lot of faculty there. So our research and policy team is a great place for our faculty to also connect and find others. So that doesn't follow sort of your traditional administrator journey, but we certainly wanted to make sure that we mentioned that our faculty also play a really integral part. So for those of you who are just starting your journey and maybe advancing your education beyond your master's, for example, and you're looking to do something that's more research-based and programmatic, or less administrative and more from the faculty side of things, we do also have a group that is focused primarily on supporting faculty on campus who work with our student affairs personnel.
Yeah, that is one of the, so I'm finishing up a doctoral program right now, and it is one of those, you know, do I go to the faculty route, do I stay in administration? And that's a lot of programming that will happen at our annual meeting in March. So there's always a session on, do I go faculty, do I go administrative, what do I do with my doctorate, why am I even getting a doctorate in the first place? So yeah, I think this is really, again, the career spanning that NASP offers is one of the pieces that makes us that way. We have a whole bunch of constituent groups. Jordana mentioned the regions, the areas, knowledge community. We're going to delve a little bit deeper into what does networking look like at NASP, but what are ways to kind of get involved. So the first way is location-based. So regions and areas, and I'll talk through kind of each of these areas. But we are currently, because we are in DC, in Region 2. Go across the river, go to Virginia, you're in Region 3. So Region 1 is the green, and that's kind of the New England area. Region 2, Mid-Atlantic in yellow. In blue is Region 3, kind of the south. Fort East is the, not the red on the west coast, but the Great Lake area. The orange is for west, and kind of the Rockies and whatnot. Hawaii, California, Arizona are Region 6, and then some international countries, and the Pacific Northwest is Region 5. So each of the regions, so we have 7 regions. Again, the US and Canada, Each has a regional director. Think of them as mini NASPA. So if NASPA has a knowledge community for athletes, there's a regional rep for athletes. If NASPA is doing community college or small college issues, there's a regional initiative. They each have their own regional advisory board. There's leadership within each of those areas. There's grad student reps. There's kind of those opportunities. And each of the regions does do a smaller conference. So if you hear 8,000 and that sounds really overwhelming to you, know that the regional conferences vary anywhere from about 250 all the way to about 1,000. Region 1 does their regional conference in the fall, and they will be in Providence, Rhode Island for the next 2 years. Region 2 does theirs in June. Usually they're separate, but they're doing a joint one with Region 3, who is also in June. And they'll actually be in Washington, D.C. Next year in June. So I think the 11th through the 15th for Region 2 and 3 who's doing a joint. Fort East is in Wisconsin this year in the fall. Fort West is in Wichita, Kansas in the fall. And then Region 5 and Region 6 always do theirs together. 2 years in Region 6 for the California, Arizona, Hawaii. 1 year in Region 5, they'll be in Sacramento in the fall. All of these regions have leadership opportunities of volunteering, call for programs so you can present at these conferences. Maybe you don't feel confident enough or comfortable enough to go to the large annual, but you want to present on the regional level. And usually call for programs open up 4 to 5 months before the actual conference. So I think Region 1 is the only one that's still, or Western Regional just extended, so 5 and 6. And then Region 1, I think, is still open. All the other regional conferences close the call for programs. And then the DC-based one will be opening up probably December, January, as far as ways getting involved. Each regional director has board. You as a NASPA member, whether you're a grad student or a professional, can vote on your leadership. You have the ability to vote who the regional director is. NASPA also is piloting our 2 global areas. So this is new in the strategic plan, Latin America and Caribbean, and Middle East, North Africa, South Asia. There's a global area director, there's programming, we do conferences within these areas as well. We translate our materials into the appropriate languages in the area. Again, for those of you that maybe are interested in international travel as well, or international work eventually, that's one way to get involved. Again, these are the kind of broad areas as far as where these 2 areas are.
So in addition to our different areas, we also have 35 knowledge communities. And this is to give our NASPA members a chance to work in much more specialized content areas, whether it's a content area that you're working on currently on campus, or maybe it's an area that you've wanted to explore. And I think the knowledge communities are a really great way to do that because you get a chance to interact with people who are currently working in those spaces. And so if you're new to student affairs and you don't know sort of which area you're working in, or if you're new to the area. So for example, one of the knowledge communities we have that I've worked with is our new professionals and grad students. And so if you're a new professional or you're a graduate student and you're looking to make those connections and those networking connections, it's a lot easier to introduce yourself and learn about other people in a much smaller setting than it is to sort of dive right into a pool of 15,000 members. And so trying to navigate NASPA sometimes can be a really great, the great way to do that is through a knowledge community. You can join and engage with as many TCs as you would like. And our annual conference is actually a really great way to engage with all of our TCs as well. As you can see, we have quite a number of them. We always get suggestions for new ones as well as new topics come up and come aboard. So if you're working, somebody here is working with assessment, and so if you want to work with other people who are data geeks and they like data, they like evaluations, they like this information, we have a knowledge community for that. If you're working with orientation or transition and retention services, we have a space for that as well. If you're working with transfer students, somebody mentioned they were working with transfer students, so we have an adult learners and students with children. So traditionally, you might see a lot of transfer students are non-traditional age students, and maybe you haven't worked with that population in the past. It's a really great opportunity to sort of pick the brains of those who have been working in those spaces. So if you are a current NASPA member and you haven't had a chance to really explore our knowledge communities, you can make those changes in your profile. You can add that you want to be part of it, and then you'll start receiving communications from them as far as their meetings, blogs that they're putting out. You can probably find a lot of them on Facebook as well, and Twitter, and they're putting out content that's really great. And then if you are not a current NASPA member, but you'd like to maybe see if NASPA is a good fit for you and you want to look at it from the lens of being part of the knowledge community, let myself, Nathan, or anybody else on the recruitment, engagement, and volunteerism team know, and we'd be more than happy to connect you with somebody on the leadership for that knowledge community.
Most of their information is actually public as far as their blog and social media handles that Jordana mentioned, so if you want to get more information. Some are identity-based, as you can see, so the Asia-Pacific Islanders or gender and sexuality. But sometimes they're kind of crossing both functional and identity, gender and sexuality, API. And then there are the functional areas that Jordana talked about. Student affairs, partnering with academic affairs for our academic colleagues, or kind of these other areas. Jordana did mention, so there were 33 6 months ago. You'll see that it's 35 now. I think there's 4 more on the docket that are coming up in June. So again, as new areas or new identities come up within the organization, these get added. They're really, I think, a good gateway into the association. They're both creating knowledge, but creating community, and they really run.
You mentioned that you're being multiple knowledge communities. Can you theoretically be in multiple regional constituent groups? Like if you were in regions right now that I want to connect with and build a remote in region 6, for example, I will do that. Is that common?
So the way that if you're a current member, the way we determine what region you're from is based on the demographic information you give us. So it's automatically, so if you're based in BC, you're going to be based in region 2. If you want to connect with them on our website, you can access and see like everybody's on the leadership team for that region or the advisory board, and you can connect with them in that way. I don't know in terms of subscribing to their content. So like if you wanted to get content is not the same way as you would subscribe to the knowledge community. So my suggestion for you, if you are interested in connecting with multiple regions, their Facebook pages are available, their Twitter and Instagram handles are usually also available and are public. And I would connect in that way, especially if you're maybe looking to explore a move to that region, for example, and you're just trying to get a feel, and you're looking at a school there and you want to connect with somebody from that school. That would be a really great way to do that.
As far as events and presenting those sorts of things, it does happen every now and again. I think it's one of those where we encourage you, if that is the case, I would reach out to the council chair or reg chair and just explain why, wanted to get back to this region or I'm from this area originally. And we definitely do see members do that on a professional level as well.
What's the process for following?
Absolutely. So on the website within the knowledge community main page, there is a proposal. Usually requires, I think it's 30 signatures. And it's kind of like starting a student group under campus. So I think it's 30 signatures, a proposed leadership team, and proposal on why it's not currently being met by the 35 and what you hope to accomplish. And then it might actually be due for this year already. I think it might be March. And then the board looks at them once a year as far as creating new knowledge communities. It's both, there is some funding that goes to KC leadership for programming, on the website, those sorts of things. But the board is looking at, when they were networked 15 years ago, I think they were thinking, so what does it look like to create this growth? You might notice there's not a housing knowledge community, for example, and that's intentional. We know that, KUO-Y, which is a housing professional organization, has partners with the KUO, but at least it's not really an area that Naspa members have seen that. But you will see there's an orientation transition and potential. Because I think even though there is a NODA, what we're finding in the individuals who propose that are looking at it much more from a community college and orientation. Although members are from all different sectors, orientation transition retention looks different at a 2-year institution versus a 4-year. And that's really why that group thought it important that Naspa created a community for them. Cool. So we're just gonna keep going through some other areas and then we'll get more questions with that.
And again, all of these you can join or hear more about as you update your profile. So these are our divisions and groups, and this is broken down by professional level. So Our senior student affairs officers on the senior level, AVP, VPSA level. We have the James C. Scott Academy and the AVP Steering Committee. I mentioned our faculty, so we do actually have a group, professional level that's dedicated to those who are faculty members and more of the academics and the administrative side. We have the Graduate Associates Program, or GAP, and those are for students in graduate programs, you know, either your first or second year, and they're looking for some additional leadership opportunities outside of their institution. So they essentially would be working with Naspa to do programming on their campus to advance some knowledge about the student affairs profession, about Naspa, about the work that we're doing, and probably a lot about topics that your cohort, those outside of your cohort might be talking about. So it's a chance to sort of get out of, you know, the group of people that you see every single day when you're in grad school, and maybe expand to talking to other students, maybe talking to undergraduate students as well that you might know who didn't think. I don't know about you guys, but I know when I first started in higher education, I didn't intentionally go into higher ed, and I'm sure you hear that from like all the old people on campus. They're like, oh yeah, I fell into this profession by accident. Whereas now I think people are very intentional about coming into student affairs and higher education. And so but I think a lot of undergrads still don't, you know, they don't realize that these jobs exist on campus and that there are programs, there's master's degrees, there's different career pathways to get into this. So I think the GAP program is a great way to do that. And then we, as Nathan mentioned, he talked about our undergraduate fellows program, which is another level for us to reach out to our undergraduate students who may not always have access to learning about these career paths, and probably would be really great in the student affairs profession, especially if they're students who are currently on campus.
GAP is open for both first year and second year graduate students, and applications close in August. For those that aren't GAP, you have the opportunity to actually be a campus intern. So we create the opportunity, we pay for your travel and your housing. You essentially become staff for the week and kind of work and see the behind the Naspa annual conference. That's a big one for this graduate student.
Are you applying to the Naspa web portal?
Yep, so if you go just search Naspa GAP, and then you can see the application. I want to say the 20, I might be making
The 27th of August.
And you get to work with your DAMA for the full year. So
Yeah.
divisions and groups. So in addition to kind of those constituent groups by professional level, we also do by institutional. Right? Two of these, the small college and university division and community college division, actually have board representation. So they sit on the Naspa board of directors. They keep in mind the community college and small college and university experience. Naspa defines small colleges anything less than 5,000. So that's how our definition. Our community colleges are 2 years, and then as we mentioned before, the global classes. In addition, there's focus areas. So we won't necessarily go through all of these. A couple that I will just call out. Bacchus initiatives of Naspa is student changing to health, safety, and well-being initiatives. So for those of you that don't know, Bacchus was a peer education or a peer network, and Naspa and Bacchus merged 4 years ago now. So we kind of took into our house all of their programming. There's something called the Certified Peer Education Training. So it's a foundational leadership training for students. About 500 different campuses are using CPE. Students, after the 9 hours of modular training, go through a certification test and are certified as a peer educator. And it's not just around health and safety. It can be for RAs or orientation leaders, those sorts of pieces. And then in particular, the Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice Division. This is the newest area of Naspa. About 2 years ago, Naspa did create a board-level leader that focuses on equity, inclusion, and social justice. We did create in the new reorg that I briefly mentioned. We created an equity, inclusion, social justice line. We hired a team that's focusing on those issues. We recognize that it's not everyone's bailiwick necessarily, but Naspa, as one of the largest associations, we find it important that we focus and center equity and justice within the work that we do.
And then another one of our newer programs is our Center for First Generation Student Success, where we are very lucky to have a partnership with the Foundation. We have a great website dedicated to that, and we'll have a lot more programming within the next year that will be focused specifically on our first generation student success programming. We also have programming that's dedicated to emergency aid on campus. And so we have a website called Student Arc, where you can look at how NASPA is partnering up with the Lumina Foundation and other grant-based organizations, where we sort of tackle some of the questions around emergency aid, whether that is food insecurity on campus, students who have financial obligations that sort of come up as emergencies, their car breaks down so they can't make it to campus, they're short tuition money, and have sort of exhausted appeals processes. So there are a lot of these other divisions and groups. Again, you can certainly be part of, we also have a Center for Women. There's actually a mentorship program specifically as part of that center as well that's very popular, that's been really well received by our members. So what I would encourage you is to really take a look, not just at what you're doing now, but also looking ahead to see what things, sort of strike you as something that you may want to start venturing into in the next few years. And we most likely have a division or group that would be a really great place for you to sort of explore and network within.
There are two other areas, the Professional Standards Division. So for those of you that don't know, NASPA and ACTA are these joint competencies for student affairs practitioners. There are 11 different areas, and that's the group that looks at those competencies. And our colleagues at Professional Development will talk more about that in the next session, and then public policy and our other colleagues talk more around after.
So you can either pair up with somebody to your left or your right, try to talk to somebody who you don't know, and hopefully it's not in your school. So all of you Maryland and GW folks and American folks may want to sort of mix it up a little bit if you can. But just take a few moments to talk about, why are you here? Why are you working in student affairs? What made you get into higher education? And what area are you curious to learn more about? Maybe you're working with students right now, but you're looking to maybe look to do more administrative work, or maybe you're working in assessment and you want to move towards something that's more programming run. So if you guys want to take a few moments, just chat, introduce yourselves, and answer a few of these questions.
Maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll ask for a few groups to share. So 2:31.
And you can hear my voice clap twice. You can hear my voice clap once. That does not work on my children. And I am really working on that because I think that would be really wonderful. So I just But did anybody, so you know there's usually the typical answers, like the typical, like this is why I do the work I do. Did anyone hear something new that they maybe thought was really interesting? Yes.
Natasha, and she's like her passionate about work at the community college level because of her like experience in undergrad going into student affairs. So seeing like her overall career interest as being like an advocate for the experience for community college, that was like the first time ever I've like heard that. Very unique. Yeah.
That's awesome. Anybody else hear something that was maybe a little outside of the norm? Does anyone want to share why they got into it? One or two.
I'll share for us. I think,
Yeah.
so Brianna and I'm Nicole. We both started out our careers in actually college access, and neither one of us is working in college access right now, but with much more, I think you can say like privilege in continuing generation populations. So talking about how that experience or those experiences are really interesting and important for understanding kind of like the scope of education in higher ed, and transition from K-12 into higher education beyond. But also I think we were both articulating kind of the desire to move out of these experiences at some point, and that's not crazy.
Yeah, we started conversations with capital theory around kind of with some of these access programs because I think not all the time, but some access people don't see themselves as student affairs professionals. They see themselves as access individuals. And what is the conversation student affairs can learn around best practices of programming, K-12 partnerships, but then how do we then help empower this other group on program planning, larger issues, how do we get it out of the silo of access and into the larger community. So I think we're, in particular with our Center for First Generation, in general, we're starting some of those conversations on exactly how we run and how to show the importance of those groups.
Well, we certainly hope we continue to have these conversations after our presentation and obviously during the reception itself. And you know, if you want to continue to share this information with us here at Naspa, we'd love to hear some of that feedback as well. So we're just going to go through the last couple of slides here because we definitely want to give you all a chance to ask some questions, take a break. You all know that Naspa does events. Obviously, I mentioned our annual conference, but we do everything from conferences to online learning to drive-ins. We have several different institutes. These are just a very small snapshot of the upcoming events that we have in the next few months. But definitely check out our events calendar because there's always something happening, and there may be another opportunity for you to get together with your colleagues regionally here in the DC area, or even if you're visiting your alma mater, for example, and you want to see what's happening in that region, it's a great opportunity to do so. And we also mentioned the online learning community. Jace, who is here with us today, is a great resource, and you can see some of our upcoming online community live briefings. And so we have everything that talks about infusing things into your own personal career, as well as how you can learn how to better serve the students and the constituents that you are working with on your campus.
Yeah, one of the nice things I think we're striking the balance better now here at Naspa, in particular over the past few years, is we're acknowledging that self-work is just as important as administrative work. So really, when we look at the sessions and you'll see even from there, it's both, I think, functionally, how do we create spaces for these groups that maybe have been marginalized, or how do we functionally do this thing better? But then also as professionals, how are you navigating the current political climate, for example, if that's something that resonates with you, or how are you making sure that you don't burn out when all of these issues are going on, and understanding that there is room for both conversations and it's important to have both. The placement exchange, so for those of you that are grad students and potentially on the job market next year, TPE is the placement exchange, the largest student affairs placement event. We do about 11,000 views over a 4-day period. It is heavily housing, so I will put that out there, and I think that is the reality. If you look at student affairs, we are heavily housing as far as open positions. So It happens immediately before the Naspa annual conference. I would encourage all of you, if you are job searching, create a profile of nothing else. It's free to create a profile. You can see what positions are posted. I can see there's some stress as I'm talking about job placement, so we'll move on afterwards. But TBE for first-year grad students, so maybe not y'all, but no other individuals. So we might be changing it this year, so stay tuned. But TBE also has an ambassador program like GAP, and for the first-year students in particular, or if you're not searching in TBE, you have the ability to be an intern for that as well. So pay for your housing, you see the behind-the-scenes ideas. It's a great place. And we're really focusing this year on the placement experience outside of just live placement event, but what are the resources that we have? How do we talk about negotiation? How do we talk about just the job search in general, the timeline, budgeting, et cetera? So definitely take a look.
And you'll hear more about this from Omari and Alexa, but I think one of the great things that NASPA has done the last few years is really expand into research and policy. So today, as you guys know, we have our National Student Affairs Day of Action. We have student affairs professionals and higher ed professionals right now in different Senate and congressional buildings here on Capitol Hill, talking to representatives, talking to them about the issues that are really important, maybe to student affairs and higher ed professionals personally, but also professionally. So how is the impact of immigration? What impact are those new policies going to have on the work that you're doing? How are we looking at different social justice areas and equity areas? Education in general, elimination of certain grant programs or funding and student aid, and what does that mean for the students that you serve? And if you're a grad student or even looking at a PhD program, how does that impact you as well? And so our Research and Policy Institute, they have a wonderful blog, so I would really highly recommend that you look into their blog. We definitely on a regular basis. They have policy briefings that they do in our online learning community. So maybe you weren't as politically inclined in undergrad or even early in your career, but now you want to know about these public policy issues that are affecting everybody on both the local level all the way to the federal level, because all of those things matter. Something that's happening in Washington, D.C. may not be as relevant to maybe the national stage, but if you're working in DC and your school is in DC, it might be nice for you to know what your representatives are doing in terms of higher education, whether it's in funding or as far as where does education go and free speech, et cetera. And then we have a lot of partnerships and grants that our research and policy team work with as well. And so if you'd like to see who we're working with and the work that our team does, I certainly encourage you to look to our RPI folks.
So the Naspa Foundation is the fundraising arm of the organization. So we're not going to do an ask right now, but we wanted to talk about a couple areas, specifically the pillars of the profession. That's kind of Naspa's kind of recognition of kind of pillars in the field, and you can nominate as a Naspa member. But in particular, the Naspa Foundation does have a few scholarship opportunities relevant to you as undergraduate professionals and level professionals. So we do have for graduate students the Jim Radigan Fund. It's $1,000 at a comp registration to the Naspa annual conference. Those applications will be live in the next month or so. GRE scholarships that Jordana mentioned are actually just for the NUC fellows and NUC alums, and that opportunity. We have a dissertation of the year award process. And then finally, our innovations grant. So this is one of the newer areas of NASPA, but we give up to $5,000 for innovative programs. So there's 2 application rounds, one in the spring, one in the fall. So take a look at it. We just opened up, or we will be opening up shortly, the fall application round in November 1st, something like that. Yeah, November 1st. Let's go with that. Whatever the website says. But again, this is for innovative programming, new ideas. Maybe you don't have funding, but you do have an idea. So take a look at that. Finally, Volunteer Central. We talked a lot about volunteering. Take a look at the website. Again, as grad students, our next team will talk about it, but the annual conference, anyone can review, undergrad, grad students, all the way up to senior level professionals. You do need to be an NASPA. But I think it's actually a good way to know what's going on currently in the field. Because you can actually pick the functional areas that you are part of, so you can see what is the programming around Latinx individuals, or what is the programming going on for student athletes. A good way to kind of see what is the cutting edge research and programming out there. Next couple moments, we'll do this.
So before we close out this part of the session and bring in our other colleagues from NASPA, we'd like to hear from you. So if you have your cell phone and you'd like to participate, we'd love for you to do so. If you're online, there is a link up there where you can actually go, or you can participate by text as well. So all you need to do is text JTaylor405. It isn't case sensitive, so if you don't want to have to text with all caps, to 22333, and you can bring that all the way over if you want. And you know, yeah. So let us know what's one thing that you can do to connect with what NASPA has to offer. So if you're a current member, it could be anything from I'm going to update my profile and I'm going to join a knowledge community, or I'm going to see if I can review a program. And what's missing? We talked a little bit, today about all the things that NASPA does. Some of you might be part of different professional associations or organizations, or maybe you haven't found the value in joining something outside of the work that you're doing right now. But what can NASPA do to provide or help you grow within this team? It's like, oh, thanks. But this is just, and we'd like, this is all anonymous, and so everybody can see this, because you may see that there are people who, within this room as well, who are looking for similar things for you, or who are hoping to find some information. I will tell you, updating your profile is also really, really helpful. That's how we know to make sure to connect you with the right people. Definitely attending a conference. Again, it doesn't have to be the annual conference. It can be anything from something that's regional, or it could just be something that's online. We have a lot of online programming that's like a multi-series type of program. So, you can do these different modules or sessions. And one of the things too, in terms of presenting, I've had a chance to review a lot of our programs since working here at NASPA. There's quite a number of really great research and ideas that are happening all across the country and across the world in terms of how to better serve students, how to continue to be successful and excited about. I think a lot of us go into our careers and we're very excited those first couple of years, and then you sort of hit this sort of slump, and then you're not really quite sure where to go. And I think by being able to sort of navigate these different opportunities, it sort of helps rejuvenate. I don't know about you guys, but every time I go to an event, whether it's a large conference or just sort of like a webinar, I come out of it thinking, oh my gosh, this is something that I can really incorporate to sort of like jumpstart my career, or sort of like restart, that idea that I had a few years ago, and I'm in a place career-wise or professionally where I can do something like that. If you haven't had a chance to connect with NASPA members at your current institution and you want to know who they are, you obviously could probably just ask, and they may know, but you can certainly contact me, Nathan, Colleen, if you want to know, hey, I'm new to this institution and I'm brand new to my position, and I really want to connect with somebody at NASPA. Who at NASPA is at American? Who at NASPA is at the George Washington University? And we'll be happy to connect you with those folks as well.
To see Petty, who's coming in as a given at GW, longtime NASPA member, close friend as well. So enough applications, there are 3 rounds. Next round will close, I believe, September 13th. For those of you interested in presenting at the NASPA annual conference, September 4th is the deadline. I will say, I think some things as we go through the program process and in selection, we really appreciate when there's a diversity of presenters. So if you have colleagues maybe at your undergrad institution, maybe people here, that may provide a multiple institution perspective. I know that is one thing in particular that really does stand out when individuals are presenting.
And you can text the same answer. You can continue to text over there. If there's something that's missing, if you've gone onto our website and you're like, I really wish the website had this, or if you've looked into any of our publications or any of our work and you're thinking, what would be really helpful for me in this space is to have X, Y, or Z, feel free to to list that on there. This is, this is a good way for us to get some immediate feedback, but as you're meeting different folks here at NASPA, as you're meeting each other and talking to your colleagues when you get back to your campus, let us know, because we're only as good as you guys are in the suggestions that you give us. So if there is content or if there are topics or areas that we haven't yet explored or really haven't gone into detail, and you think that is something that's really important, Nathan, myself, Colleen, Danny, who's online, and any of our colleagues who are going to be here today, all have open door policies. We want you to email us. We want you to tell us, NASPA, you need to do more in this space. Because we want, we're not on your campuses and we can't be on those spaces all the time, but you're our eyes and ears on the ground, and so we want to know what's important to you and what's not to do to serve those different areas.
Yeah, one of the things that I know we're remaining committed to, in particular in the 2019 office, is keeping NASPA small. We know it's 8,000 individuals at an annual meeting. About 3,000 to 3,500 are first-time visitors. So we know you wouldn't think that number, but there are a lot of new people, and we recognize that it can be overwhelming. And something that we as staff, I know as volunteers, we are wanting to make sure that NASPA remains an intimate experience as much as possible. So we're going to take anything else? So we will revisit this at the end as we're doing the raffle. So you'll hear from more colleagues, and it might spark an idea, spark another connection on the way you want to get engaged involved. We're going to take a 10-minute break if y'all could be back here at 3 p.m. Again, restrooms are down and around the corner. They are all gender, but single use. So if it's locked, that's because someone's in there. Coffee and tea, some snacks are out there, and we will be here for questions.
And you feel free to continue texting some information throughout the afternoon as it comes up, and we'll keep this open and certainly take all of this feedback. Thank you.
Can I just leave it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
How are you? You're on that.
Well, I was gonna stand up at the end. It's like that. I wonder
Greetings and salutations.
Hey, y'all.
My name is Tiki Aiku. I am so excited that you all came to see us today on this hot, humid, potentially rainy, drizzly, mixed awful day. I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Professional Development here at Naspa. I've been at Naspa almost 8 years, in which I've done lots and lots of things. We only have 45 minutes, so I'm not going to tell you about them. The team is excited to talk to you a little bit about professional development today. And because we come from a learning culture, you'll also get the opportunity to do a little worksheet. For those of you who are joining us remotely, we'll make sure that we send that worksheet to you after this so that you have the opportunity as well. I'm supposed to say some other things. Okay, so I look after professional development here at NASPA. That's roughly conferences that are between 50 and 1,500, and I have some responsibility for the annual conference. I'm supposed to tell you that I went to undergrad at Morgan State University, go Golden Bears, I'm a proud HBCU alum, and that I also look after our international initiatives.
I think you got everything.
The team's going to introduce themselves either as they come up or however they're going to unroll this. Is not my part. I'm so excited to go. And so we'll have time for questions at the end. I'll also be your tour guide. If you're staying for the tour, 8 years ago they decided I did them well, so good job and give it up. Whenever you do something well, it just makes you keep doing it. So I'm excited to show you that as well. I'm going to turn this over to Rob.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, and hello, virtual land. My name is Robert Valderrama. I serve as an Assistant Director of Professional Development. I've been at NAPA for almost 2 years now. Part of my role is to work with our international initiatives as well, but it's also conference development. And my undergraduate alma mater is the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And you are, pass it off to you.
Thanks so much, Rob. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gerald Johnson II. I am new to our NASA team. I serve as the Program Execution Coordinator. My undergrad is at the Florida State University down in Tallahassee, Florida. Don't know. And I'm here, and I'm very proud to work with the team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Program Execution here. I graduated from Montclair State University, undergrad and grad, and I'm also new with Gerald, so I'm very excited to be here and to see you all, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you online for logging in.
Hi, my name is Jake Fraser. I am also an Assistant Director of Professional Development. I've been here almost 2 years. Rob and I started within a week of each other, I think. And my undergraduate is Christopher Newport University. Yeah, oh, sorry, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Goss. I am the Program Execution Assistant. I'm at the University of Go Eagles.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jade Kirshner. I'm the Associate Director for Online Professional Development at NASPA. I have been at NASPA for 3 years now, just over. And I went to the college in Jersey. We were the Hey! I did not expect that to happen. That warms my heart. Thank you. Yes, all right. So there we go.
All right, awesome. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to help. Yeah, our team presenting a little bit more about themselves, and y'all can meet them. We're excited for you all to be here and joining us on the NASPA Open House on this July 17th, 2018. And what we're planning on doing right now is making sure that the clicker can work, but it's okay. We're going to do one of these ones right here. Sorry, I don't mean to flip you walking, y'all. Beautiful. So your professional development at NASPA. Professional development is a pretty ambiguous term sometimes. So NASPA is the leading student affairs association worldwide, and what that means, we provide a lot of professional development opportunities. So when we say professional development opportunities, what does that mean to y'all? Oh, yeah, perfect. Wonderful. So, yes and yes. So what that means is that we have a lot of in-person events You can either attend as a participant, but also present at a conference, institute, symposium, etc. Engage with our online modules within our OLC, whether that means you purchase some publications to read, or maybe you become a content area specialist, and as well as create some original academic work, get engaged and network with many professionals within the region's knowledge community divisions and other constituent groups, or find many of the copious amounts of opportunities to engage with NASPA as a volunteer, which is community located in our volunteer central. Don't know where that is? Please let me know. I'll be more than happy to show you where that is. So as you see, we have more than 500 plus opportunities for you all to get engaged. But I think the hardest part that especially I had when I was a graduate student is figuring out what these engagement opportunities mean outside of just in-person events. So for the next few minutes, what Jake and I are going to do, we're going to go ahead and try to help map out what professional development looks like, all the way from a graduate student, undergraduate student, to a senior level administrator.
So NASPA, we have about 16,000-ish, depending on the time of year, members. So as Rob said, we're the largest student affairs association nationally and also international, which is cool. So we service a lot of different types of constituents. So graduate students, entry-level professionals, mid-level folk, and senior staff and faculty. And so for our graduate students, how many of you are graduate students or new professionals? Wonderful. Hello all. So since we have so many offerings, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to identify like what to do. And so on this presentation, what we want to do is like, let's say hypothetically, you're a grad student or a new professional who's interested in assessment. Wonderful. So we've got a few options. So what we did was took a few different things that we offer that are kind of revolving around assessment. So for example, we have a constituency group, knowledge community, assessment and evaluation knowledge community. That's a really good way to get involved as leadership on a leadership team. You can meet other folks from around the nation or internationally who are interested in AER, and you can also kind of contribute to the content expertise, right, that we're producing. You can also attend an online or an in-person event. So we have an assessment and persistence conference that we have been offering for a number of years. And so you can actually go on site, you could do a presentation, you could attend a ton of presentations, and then you can go and meet other people who are interested about data and assessment. How fun. Or you can also read a journal. How wonderful is that? So you can read some, so you can read some research, you could consider contributing to a journal, or you could do some type of journal editing or reviewing, right? And so thinking about those like 500, 600 plus things, like what are the 3 or 4 that you can do to focus on your thing, right? So if you're a grad student or a new professional, you'll eventually find your thing. So maybe you're really jazzed about assessment, or if you're a mid-level professional, how many of you are mid-level, or you would identify somewhere in the middle? Wonderful. So you, yeah, there you go. So you, is it you? Sorry.
Thank you so much. So as you continue now,
I got excited.
I'll pivot. So as you continue advancing within your career as a mid-level administrator, now you have to be a little bit more intentional with professional development events that you need to engage with. Maybe that means you want to participate and attend the Leadership Education Institute, or choose to go to the Mid-Level Administrators Conference presented every single June. But because now you are considered a little bit more of a content area expert, this also means you can join another professional development volunteer opportunity by serving as a planning committee member for a conference, symposium, or another institute. You can also choose to engage in an online professional event, such like this event, which is the Student Affairs Mid-Level Administrator, the Power and Strength of Leading from the Middle. Also, perhaps maybe you want to get back to younger and newer professionals, so you join the Naspa Center for Women, so you can be that mentor, provide those tools and resources that you so desperately needed as a new or entry-level professional.
Great, and then for senior student affairs staff or faculty, is that anyone in this room? Yay. So the nice thing about NASPA, or at least in my experience, so before I worked at NASPA, I worked on the university campus, and I was involved in NASPA. And so you kind of find that it kind of becomes your professional home. So I'm sure you've probably met people who are like, oh, I'm really like into X association or X organization, and that's kind of your professional home. That's kind of how I think about NASPA, in that you can get involved as early as graduate school or even undergraduate if you get, through enough programs, et cetera. And then you can kind of continue through NASPA as a senior student affairs officer or a faculty member, where you kind of go from these kind of more entry level, maybe surface level kind of involvement. So you're attending conferences, but you're not necessarily contributing. So maybe as a senior student affairs officer, you have opportunities to maybe serve as a director for certain events. So for example, we have an international symposium. Maybe you're really interested in international education and you want to take on the leadership for the event. And so you can think about how do you, as you continue in your career, utilize all the things that NASPA has as an association to A, kind of build your network, which we'll talk about later, but then B, build your expertise, and then kind of become an active participant. So you all have been involved in pretty much anything. You know how they always say, like, you get in what you get out what you put in, kind of the same thing for associations. And so as you continue through your career, you're going to continue to have these opportunities. And so it might shift from you editing a journal article to maybe authoring a book, something like that. So we're going to talk about 5 things to enhance your professional development, kind of topically as we go down the list. So I'm starting with stretching your professional development. And what I mean by this is really like, how are you going to stretch your dollars? Because sometimes we might have a lot of professional development money. Sometimes we might have no professional development money. And so for us, what we want to think about is, yes, we do a lot of on-site in-person events. That's like my gig. That's what I do all day pretty much, is planning these on-site in-person events. But we also recognize that oftentimes costs can be prohibitive, or you might not be able to take time away from the office to travel to Las Vegas to go to a 3-day conference, right? And so what we want to think about is, what are the ways that you can get involved through the association? So what I want you all to do is talk to whoever you're sitting by, so your best friend, and think about what are 2 things that you've learned thus far or have already maybe been aware of, 2 things that you could do to kind of advance your professional development that cost you nothing except for your wonderful time. So take a few minutes and talk to whoever's next to you and think about that. Or things that you've already done. Bring it back. So I'm gonna ask for volunteers. I'm curious to hear from some of our entry-level professionals / graduate students, mid-levels, and also our wonderful senior staff. Sorry, they're the only one in the physical space at this moment. But I'd be curious to hear various perspectives for those people who are willing to share it. So maybe things that you want to get involved with, or things that you have been involved with. So can we start with maybe our entry-level folks? If you all talk about anything? Yeah. And do you mind saying your name and where you're coming from?
Hi everyone, Junior Hurd from the University of Maryland. And something that I've been doing but could be better at is listening to phone calls of the LGBTQ that next region 2 has been sponsoring. It's called Consejos de Consuelos, which is like advice on like any topic, but it's specific to the Latinx community. So that's definitely free, happens every Friday. I don't listen in all the time, but it happens at noon consistently, and it brings different topics and speakers, and it's free to join. Even if you're like, you want to like take like a lunch break and just listening, or while you're working doing something, that doesn't require like support.
Yeah, great. Maybe someone from our mid-level group. I know a lot of some mid-level folks over here. Maybe things that you've done that have been free, or things that you want to do. Yeah.
We talked about like the event right now, so not only are we learning about the
And then, do you have anything to share maybe as a more senior professional, things that you might have been involved with, or things that you want to do?
So my name is Denise George. I'm a faculty member at Professional. One thing that I did is I wrote an article that was published in the Naspa journal that was in higher education. We have a bunch of learning series that featured me
back in October. We talked about undergraduate, Black undergraduate. So that was great. And if they have a bunch of experience, happens like once in a while, that they feature scholars, talk about an article.
That's wonderful. Great, thank you all for sharing. So, as Rob and I talked about earlier, we have all these wonderful things going on, so publications, in-person events, et cetera. And I think the two main things that we wanted to talk about today, or at least I wanted to talk about today, was kind of the divisions and groups and volunteering. So kind of like you were just referring to the Latinx KC, we have over 30 knowledge communities, and then a number of different divisions and other constituent groups. And so there is assuredly no lack of kind of representation. So if you have a particular interest in anything within student affairs, there is more than likely a group for it, or you could create one. It's just like clubs, registered student work on campus. And so I think that the greatest value out here is that obviously it's free, so you're not spending any money to get involved with people. I think that the value of social connections and networking is huge, especially in this field where we are so small and it's so kind of relational. I think that not only can you learn a lot through volunteering, so either serving on a conference planning committee or authoring a chapter in a book or a journal about yourself personally and professionally, but you also can learn from other folks, right? So for those of us who are in the DMV area, so AU, GW, Maryland, et cetera, you can learn from other people who might be at community colleges or different regions, right? Like what are some of the major issues going on in their region, their state, or their institution type? So, any questions? Comments, concerns? Cool. So I'm going to transition over to Jay, who's going to talk about online learning. Apropos.
Thank you. All right, so good afternoon once again. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, my virtual friends. As I mentioned, my name is Jace Kirshner. I'm the Associate Director of Online Professional Development. So we've heard a lot already about what sorts of things NASPA has to offer in the online space. So I want to talk a little bit about, as we think so often, we think about the best professional development is going to happen in an in-person event. And I want to kind of challenge that a little bit, because certainly going online is going to be a different experience than what you experience when you go to a conference in person. But there are definitely benefits on the other end of that as well. So what is OPD, online professional development, anyway? Professional development that's online, like what else is it going to be? But we have a couple of distinct ways we can think about online professional development. And those would be live versus synchronous versus asynchronous opportunities. So when we think about live, our friends online right now are participating in a live professional development opportunity. Live in the moment, you're doing it at the same exact time as other people are. Synchronous, if it is live, it is also synchronous. But if it is synchronous, it does not have to be live. Next week, we're launching a short course that's all about building your own resilience. So how you can roll through when stressful things come up. And it's synchronous in that every week we're going to be releasing new material, and people are going to be watching it sort of on their own time, but then participating in forums and discussion boards and actually like talking to the instructor of that course all within that same week. So it's synchronous in that you're doing it at the same time as other people, even if you can kind of watch what's happening on your own time altogether. Asynchronous is sort of it's all on you. Like you go ahead, you register for the course, you register for that session, and then whenever you want to watch it, you can go ahead and do so. In the online learning community, these come up as live briefings, which are our webinars anywhere else, but we're Naspa, so we make it fancy. Short courses, which are more of the asynchronous types of things. And then on-demand modules. So anything that's recorded as a live briefing does become an on-demand module. We have well over 200 of these in the online learning community right now that you can choose from and have a part of. So, and like I said, all of these together make the online learning community. Ooh, So it looks like this. If you go to olc.naspa.org, you can see it. We have a whole bunch of different programs that you can look through. You can sort actually by the different categories here. You can see whether or not it's free or if it's in a particular price point, free, hey grads, free stuff, and what kind of thing it is that you might be interested in looking at, primarily live or online or on demand, etc. We also do during the annual conference the virtual ticket. So again, thinking about cost prohibitivity, maybe you can't get out to LA next year, sad, we would really like to be there. But if you can't be, we do have the virtual ticket, which is both a live, in-person, and asynchronous component to it. You can watch recorded sessions live, on your own time with a group of your staff members at a much lower price rate than bringing that entire team with you to the annual conference. So it's a really amazing deal. You should totally check it out. The virtual ticket. So what is so great about online professional development? I was going to tell you how it's different from, but can be, have its own benefits when compared to in-person programming. First of all, it's a choose your own adventure sort of story. You know, you've got so many different things to choose from. You're not limited by like when different sessions are happening. It's all there at your fingertips. You can register for it, watch it whenever it is you want to. It's professional development on your own time. You know, I don't know how many of you have families, you have kids, you've got people who are depending on you back at home. It might not be such an easy opportunity to drop your entire lives and go away. This is whether you do it in the morning before you start work, or at 12 p.m. in your PJ or 12 a.m. in your PJs, with your iPad open on your lap. You learn at your own pace. Maybe you want to stop something and go and look something up while you're in the middle of a session. Say, what do we do when we're thinking about academic advisement or when we're dealing with LGBTQA students? Let me go look at that and come back to the session after I've done a little bit of self-research with that. Your budget dollars will go further if you're not thinking about hotels or airlines, et cetera, And it's networking in a different way. I like to think of it as introvert heaven, particularly, right, there you are, I see you all. Particularly if you think about, we have all of our friends online right now, hello again, who are having a great conversation in the chat box. How many of you, maybe don't always feel so comfortable raising your hand and saying something when you're in a big group, but maybe if you could just kind of type it, you'd be a little bit more willing to actually say something to somebody and interact in that way. So we do have those things that are available for you as you're participating in these sessions. So we want to give you an opportunity to try us out if you have not already done so. We have these 4 sessions that we chose that we thought might be good for our audiences here. Moving up, refining yourself in your career path, why women should ask, pay equity and women in student affairs. As Rob mentioned earlier, the student affairs mid-level manager, the power and strength of leading from the middle, and landing the job you want, 10 strategies to capitalize on the job search process. If you use these codes that we have up here, you'll be able to register for them at no cost to you. We're going to distribute these actually out. Yeah, free. And you get a webinar, we will be distributing these out to you by email. Also, along with your thank you for registering this session, you'll get all of these there. So, yes, sir.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're, so I think the other great thing about online learning is that you can register for refining yourself in your career path. But you could have your whole cohort of people, or you could ask your staff to watch it. You know what I mean? So it's nice where you could say, oh, I'm supervising 3 people, for example, and we have this issue on our campus. Let me take this webinar and tell all 3 of them to watch it, and we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, it's actually a really powerful way to use the online tools, because then you're learning as a group and you can, again, stop and share and think about what it is that you're doing, what could be better about what you're doing, what could you work on. You also can learn from campuses across the country in that same moment. So really cool ways there. So I'm going to actually leave you there, and I'm going to be passing it on to friends to talk about mentorship.
So hello again, my name is Carol Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Program Execution here. Hello again online. And I just wanted to talk to you all today about mentorship. So who in here currently serves as a mentor or is being mentored by someone currently? Can I just get some of your feedback as to what mentorship is? What are some of the benefits of that relationship that you have with that person? Anyone? Or everyone?
For me, it was just, I think, working with somebody who wanted to go into the field of student affairs, and now they are in the field of student affairs, and so it's definitely evolved, and I think learning from them, just like they're learning from me. So.
Anyone else want to share? Share a narrative or being someone that you inspired. So just at the most simple form of mentorship, it's an opportunity for you to gain knowledge and skills from others who are experienced. So if you're serving as a mentor, you're obviously a little bit more experienced than the other person, and they're kind of looking to you to get some feedback as to how to navigate their career. It's also an opportunity for professional socialization. So mentors are obviously really great teachers. They can teach you how to operate in different social settings, what are the best practices, and then finally, it's the personal support for graduate school or even beyond. So I know at Montclair State University, they had a mentoring program where they connected us to different professionals, mid-level professionals in the field. And then we had an ability to start forming that relationship and get a better idea of what to look out for in higher ed. And that's for sure. So the great thing about having a mentor is they're awesome sounding boards. So if you have an idea that you want to present, you can run it by them first. If you're having any issues in your career or just not sure where to move, you can also talk to them about that first. They're trusted advisors, so this is most likely someone that you've developed a trusted relationship with. Chances are you're going to trust the advice that they give you on how to continue to move forward in your career. They are awesome connectors, so they are connected to a larger network, so you have the ability to meet different professionals and also to like diversify your skill set or to even refine the skill that you currently have. They help to identify potential pitfalls, so with the experience that they have, they've also made tons of mistakes along the way, so they can help you to identify any mistakes that you're making or how to work through the mistakes that you could be making. And then finally, they do not have to be in the same industry or location as you. I currently have a mentor who is not in higher ed, but because she is in a different field, I'm able to get a more comprehensive solution to any problems that may come up along the way. And 3 sides to mentorships. I don't know if anyone has ever heard this before, but I went to a professional development session and they talked about the 3 different parts to mentorship. So being a mentee, that's obviously you learning from someone who is a little bit more experienced with been through a couple of things in the field or in another field. Also being a peer mentor. So these are people that you're in class with, people who are on the same level as you professionally, and they have different experiences and backgrounds. So you're learning from one another at the same time. And then finally, being a mentor is you're looking to someone who doesn't have that much experience. You see that they have potential and you just want to help them and guide them as they go through their career. And now I'm going to turn it over to Gerald. I'm sorry, Kristen, who's going to talk about networking.
Hi again, Kristen. Make sure I'm not YouTube. Oh, okay, so networking. We're talking about networking. So kind of came up with 5 ways to improve your professional network. And feel free to add to this. But be intentional, that's important. You might not always know how someone can help you, but at least know the why. So if you're going to someone and approaching them and asking them to join your network, at least have an idea of why you're looking for that person or that role or that institution to become a part of your professional network. So it's important to be intentional. Be respectful, especially at people's different levels. You may be talking to an executive or somebody at a higher level. They may not have as much time as you do to speak on certain matters, so just be respectful of that. And also that networking can happen at every level, just like learning can happen at every level. So just because someone's in a certain position does not mean you can't learn from them and they can't develop you professionally and vice versa. So be respectful of their time and their knowledge. Make a personal connection. It's kind of hard to identify with someone they can't like establish a connection with them. So find some commonality. Oh, we both took the same class, we have the same major, went to the same school. Something that you can both relate to is very important. Be available. When someone asks you to join a network, they're assuming that you're going to be there to give advice and to go over things with. So don't offer your time if you're not going to be available because it's counterproductive. And maintain neutrality. Just like I said before, people can help you at any level. So make sure that if you're asking, you're also willing to receive, well, to give, and vice versa. So you're asking a higher up for something, then they should be able to ask you in return things. So. Okay, so opportunities that you can use to expand your network. Again, we have all these conferences, institutes, and all that. Social media, might want to either consider having a professional page or cleaning up your personal page. But it's a great way to connect with people anywhere. We all know that. I'm a millennial, so we know that we can connect on a wider scale using social media. Which means probably cleaning up. Knowledge communities, as you said before, there's different types of communities that we can all join and learn from. They may have different opportunities, professional development opportunities, or just connecting, just being around like-minded people who have similar interests. That's always a good place to start when you want to do your network. Socials. I learned this at annual conferences last year. I went to the African American soiree, had a great time, exchanged business cards and all of that with people that I may not be able to use professionally, but I can use on a personal level, or vice versa. You know, you can have a professional network as well as a personal network. And we did want to mention that networking is more than just exchanging contact information. Like, that is important, because if you, like I said, back to all of this, can you do that just by giving someone your business card? You can't be intentional if you don't know who they are. You can't be respectful because you don't know where they're coming from. You can't make a personal connection. You just exchange it. You just exchange contact information. Like, so it's just important that you have all these things when you are trying to make a connection with people. And it's more than just, hey, here's my card. Hit me up sometimes. So that happens a lot, I think. Yeah. So, campus visits. Yes, that's another good one. If you see a campus or a group on a campus that's doing some work, or somebody's having some kind of event, it doesn't hurt to go to that campus and make connections and have conversations with someone who does something other than you, or a different type of institution or whatever that you're a part of. It does make for better connections that you actually go and see these people in person. So taking all this, does anybody have any practical ways that you can utilize this information to better expand your network?
So I will insist my knowledge that I need to that I don't forget. So you could gather as many business cards as you want and professional opportunity, but I need to make sure that I follow up with them.
So how do you determine the people that you actually engage with to join your network?
I mean, I don't know that they will join my network right away, but I will find them on LinkedIn and then send them a message and be like, it was great meeting you at this conference. Actually, I went to the Naspa 2 region conference, and I connected with a lot of community colleges. I connected with them, and I said, I'm going to be job searching here now, hope you can continue staying connected. They replied to me, and I hope to continue helping. I hope that my name continues coming up, so that they keep my name around.
Only good tips that I have past professional development opportunities, and I went to networking sessions and socials, and I received business cards from professionals that I do want to continue good at network with. First thing I did once I got the business card was look at the business card, read the business card, get their name, information, who they are, and once the conversation concluded, I put it over on the bag. I kind of wrote a note about our conversation, so I follow up for genuine, and also so that I can continue to build those genuine connections as well. My understanding that person is outside of just coming from that call.
Anyone else?
So it's actually, I applied for this one job I'm actually looking for. And I turned down the position, but the director reached out to me personally and saying, like, why did you, like, what changed your mind? Because you seem like you can't say we wanted to. But, and I just told her, like, the first reason, like, I just didn't want to go there. And long story short is, like, she continued to check on and see, like, how my job search process was going in. And kept that down. That was really cool. I mean, me being a professional skill, but reaching out to this person and who is the director of the department and had that dialogue with that.
So I've never thought people would that in places, but I've learned that keeping it current is really important. And in my own personal journey, there's correlation between an employer viewing your page and there being some sort of follow-up. And I think because I closely work with students, I also enhance my page by having pictures. I think people like that personal touch, or to see you doing
certain things and being interactive. And so definitely keeping that, I think, page current gives you like a visual footprint to have. So I've noticed like, oh, I need to stay on top of my LinkedIn and actually where I say I work is where I currently work, things like that. So that's critical.
Yeah, and I actually have had people at events who found me on LinkedIn, people who were way above my level, who were like, oh, you were nice, you know, let me just find her on LinkedIn and let's connect. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I have this person in my network. I don't know how to use these people just yet, but it's good to have like that backup and people who notice you and find you. So that's always important, like you said, to keep your LinkedIn page up to date because people will Google you. I learned that here. People Google me and then they add me on everything and I'm like, oh my goodness. So you never really know the impact that you have when you go to these events, these networking events. People, you may not leave with a business card, but you might have an inbox full of LinkedIn requests. So that's always important. And like I said, social media, at least not make it not linked to anything that they can find you with. So it's important. I'm just saying, you know, important.
All right, so good afternoon again, everyone. Again, hello to our online community. Again, my name is Gerald Johnson II. I serve as our program coordinator for our execution team here. I'm going to talk briefly about our diversifying your skill set, what that actually means as a professional. So first thing is, let's kind of define what that actually means. So to diversify your skill set, what we're looking to talk about is raising your value to clients, whether that's to donors, whether that's to other potential employers as well, and also your market, also within your own career area as well. So they're looking at some ways as far as how you can diversify yourself. You look at diversifying your ways, or to diversify yourself can help you to improve your working capacity, your ability to work within your organization. Your knowledge of the various areas that may be also affiliated with your particular group organization and your marketability, because you do want to make sure that you are the marketable as possible throughout your employment search, as far as the new person are concerned, and as far as you moving up on the ranking as far as the middle person are concerned. Other ways that you can look at as far as diversifying your skill set, as far as looking at fiscal management, looking at conflict resolution, how do you handle your personnel? Research evaluation and also assessment is a big thing in our field now. So how are you understanding those new nuances? Technology as well. Always ever advanced. Are you keeping up with the paces and things like that? But we want to ensure that you're being as diverse as possible. So kind of looking to go forward, Naspa has done a good job of identifying some of our competency areas. These are 10 areas that we identified that are going to help our professionals to become the best that they can be as far as improving themselves, as far as their ability to work, and also their ability to support our students. Looking at the first 5, so looking at advising and supporting our students. How do we provide leadership? Assessment, evaluation research again comes in there. Organizational and human resources, as far as our personnel management. Law, policy, and government. Policy changes are happening every single day. I'm sure the news is always keeping things current. And then the other end is personal ethical foundation as well. Technology, which is always changing. Including social justice and inclusion, which is always a thing that's really big in 2018 right now. Our student learning and development, and of course the values, philosophies, and history of our field. All right. So more than anything, there's different ways that Naspa also offers opportunities to our members. We offer you opportunities through events in which our members can go to our conferences, our workshops, which were spoken about a little bit earlier on. But this is a great way for you to go to these different workshops, different programs, and really indulge with our different competency areas. Kind of depending on the workshop that you may go to or conference that you may go to, and maybe a specific focus on one of these competency areas. So as far as you being able to experience as a professional, being able to attend definitely helps you in that way. Our publications, reading is power and knowledge is power, but how you apply that knowledge is also very important. Naspa definitely publishes. Naspa also publishes many different publications. This is our five things briefs as well. Also our learning publications too. And lastly, we have our networking opportunities, which Kristen spoke about before, as far as our socials opportunities to use them, meet with different mixers, join the knowledge community as well, and different institutions. All right. I'll pass it on. So I got Rob.
Sure. So by this point, I think y'all should pretty much know that we offer some professional development opportunities, right? Yeah, that's fair. But in order to do some professional development opportunities, it's also very important that you be intentional with how you want to do this. So we're going to spend the next couple minutes working on a worksheet where we essentially map our professional development through Naspa. So it's going to be split out into 3 different time frames. How you're going to enhance professional development within 3 months from today, 6 months, and 1 year from today. For those joining us virtually, please let us know if this works for y'all, but if it doesn't, we'll send y'all one as soon as we can. Does anyone need a pen? Raise your hand. We'll provide you. Okay, so what you're going to do is also select 2 of the multiple professional development opportunities that we offer, whether that's focusing on how we want to enhance our professional development within 3, 6 months, and a year in in-person events, constituent group involvement, online learning, volunteer opportunities, on-campus mentorship, or another platform that you like to use. So if we can, please spend the next 2 to 3 minutes doing some self-reflection. And from there, I want to make sure that we can offer some opportunities to share with some people next to us, and then we'll bring it back to the board.
Anyone need pen?
Hi, folks. Okay, let's bring it back. So, does everyone hate when like their time isn't appreciated? Right? I hate when that happens. So, in order to make sure that we give you about 15 minutes to get another break and get some energy, there's a break after this. No, just kidding. In order to make sure that we respect the presentation for our next. We're going to spend some time during the networking reception to kind of talk about some of your professional development mapping. But I want to thank you all for engaging in the session and understand that there are multiple opportunities for you to get involved in professional development, whether that's submitting a program, volunteering at a conference, or holding workshops on your own campus. On behalf of actually, does anyone have any questions for us or any of our team members? I'll go back and want to I'll take this. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes, so we're going to give copies of all the presentations after.
All right.
So, I guess a quick
close. He said, give it close. There you go. Ooh, that was such hard work for me. Gosh, no. So we're going to be around for the reflection part, for your individual questions. It's not going to be like a share and share, but don't be surprised if one of us walks up and says, so what do you think you might do 3 months from now? To advance your professional development, right? We're going to take that moment. We really appreciate your time. We do want to be respectful of your next presenter, but we will be around for questions. We wanted to do something different. Sometimes we do this presentation, we kind of try to talk about all the different ways that you can develop as a professional at Naspa via these different venues, but we decided to do a little tweaking to it. Hope you like it. You'll let us know in the email. So when we do this a year from now, you can tell us whether or not you all like it. So thank you again for your time, attention, and participation. And I'd like to call my dear, who's that next? Alexa and Omari to come on up front and get set up for the presentation. And I'll see you all around 5 o'clock.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Is everyone okay to put it to be like a little 5-minute break now? Good? Everyone all right. So we just need to upload the new presentation. So while he's doing that, well, good afternoon, everyone. I am your last presentation, I believe. So I really don't like being between people and food and wine, but it is okay that we'll be able to do this. But we really just, my name is Omari. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Strategy and Practice here at Naspa, and I'm joined with my colleague, Alexa Wesley, who is Research and Policy Associate. And so we are on the Research and Policy team here at Naspa. And so what we want to do is just spend the next 30 minutes or so just tell you a little bit more about ourselves, tell you a little bit about some of the ongoing research and policy initiatives that we have here at Naspa. And then Alexa and I did a little bit of brainstorming just to brainstorm some tips and tricks as you all progress in your own career, what can be helpful for you. Come on, stay up a little more. No, let's talk about it. Do a dance. You do. I wish I was that talented. All right. And so before we begin, I have just a few questions. So just raise your hand for me. First one, if you even knew that the RPI, the Research and Policy Institute, existed here at NASA. Okay, that warms my heart a little bit. We got a little something going. All right. If you ever have come to the NASA website to research a particular student affairs topic. Okay. Have you ever attended an RPI live briefing? All right, we got some folks. Okay. And if you ever read an RPI blog, we got one. And so with that, it's okay because that's why we're here today. One, I'm excited because one, there's a general awareness that you can use the RPI or just NASA in general to uncover some of your student affairs needs. But also there's some opportunities there that we can do as NASA to make sure that you are up to date on all the offerings that we have for you here. And so we're going to start that conversation today just to share with you some of the tools and resources that are available to you as being part of that. But before we begin, just a little bit about myself. It's my birthday week, so we're going to party a little hard at the reception tonight. All drinks on me. The second thing is that I am a transfer survivor, and I say survivor because it was a serious challenge for me. Okay, but it led me to my career today. Just understanding how you can go from one institution where you flourish into another institution where it took a while to find your footing to be able to be successful. Taught me that it is, institutions can do a lot to make all students feel welcome and make sure that they have all the tools they need to succeed in that. And so with that, that led me to this career in higher ed because I want to make sure that no other student has to go through some of those challenges or take up that extra semester or two to find their footing or to navigate a complex. So with that, I know I'm on a research and policy team, but I am not a researcher by training. I got here through, I was a consultant, but I
did it more so working with government organizations with change management, right? So helping them figure out what they can do in order to meet their goals. And so through my process and my journey, I was able to work with university systems as well with a number of institutions where I got to help them plan and strategize for how are they going to close the gap for students of color as well as low income students. And so I have been able to work with so many people on helping them set goals for student success, helping them look at their data to determine what are the right strategies that they're doing for their students, but also creating a plan to say, if we're going to do this, what does it really take for us to be successful and make sure that our students are successful? And then helping them look at their data and use their data in a way that truly drives action and mobilizing the folks at the institution in order to do that. And so that led me to my career here, where now I get to take that practice out of the work and then do my own original research and be able to help institutions on their way. So we're going to talk about some of that later, soon. And then lastly, I'm a Golden Girls fan, like hardcore Golden Girls fan. And so one of the things that I'm hesitant about doing that is because now my house is kind of filled with Golden Girls stuff, and I'm not too happy about. But when people tell you that you're a Golden Girls fan, like to give you stuff, it's all right there. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alexa to share a little.
Hello, I'm Alexa. So a little bit about me. I am a two-time Turk. Yeah, so I was at undergrad and then grad school, I got a master's in public policy. I was first introduced to higher ed when I entered at the U.S. Education Department. I was initially really interested in K-12, but the office I was applying to needed someone in the higher ed team, so from that experience, I went for it and actually ended up really falling in love with space and seeing how much work that needs to be done between the time when a student enters college and that kind of black box between the time between that when they graduate, given the equity gap in completion. So my interest in the non-traditional, nutritional students is what brought me to Naspa. I'm a firm believer that everything about college should be easy, everything about college should be easy except for the learning. But I feel like there are so many bureaucratic hassles that often make it so challenging, especially for students who have the most time constraints, resource constraints, those who are working or might be in school for time. So I think with student affairs profession, there's so much that can be done there in terms of raising awareness for these students and also just addressing those various challenges. And last but not least, I am a cat mom, and I love them very much. As an introvert, this took a lot of energy out of me thinking about doing a presentation. So going home, going to them, is the way to charge.
All right, and so one of the things that I just want to highlight here is that as NASPA, we have an obligation to our members to make sure that they have access to relevant and timely information. But we also have an obligation to the higher ed community at large, right? We want to make sure that everyone understands the important role that student affairs professionals play on a college campus. And so with that, we have two goals in our strategic plan that really help us to address this, right? So the first one is to make sure that we are generating original scholarships and getting that information out to people that want it and need it, right? The second one is on making sure that we are in those public policy spaces and in those important conversations that really target the issues that our members and we as an association care for, to make sure that we are being a voice in those important conversations. And so we know, just in general, when it comes to what are the issues that we're all tackling, there are a number that I know many of you are familiar with. So the student demographics are changing, as Alexa mentioned, there's the new college student, the new traditional student, right? And so what does this mean in terms of how we should serve our student population? Disparities in college completion. So as we know that, despite the progress that we have made, we know there are still some gaps that relate to our students of color and low income students. And so we want to make sure that we don't lose any of the momentum that has been happening in that area. Campus protest and activism, given some of the divisiveness that's happening in the U.S. right now, we see that there's a rise in some of this happening on college campuses. So what does this mean for our role as student affairs professionals? Mental health is another issue that we know that we definitely don't want to take off our priority. And then affordability and student indebtedness. I don't know about anyone else here, but student loans are real. And it's something that we all struggle with. But when it comes to the terms of affordability, right, it helps people are now questioning the value of higher education, right? And so with that being said, how are we making sure that student affairs professionals are up to date on some of the latest trends and conversations around that? And then lastly, changing federal and state policy there. And Alexa will talk a little bit more about our policies. And so the RPI, we as a team are designed to really address these challenges. So one, making sure that we're doing our policy analysis and making sure that we're getting that information out to folks as they new things come about. How are we as student affairs professionals should be responding to this? We create tools and resources for folks. So as we come up with different policy analysis, this is how you should think about this. What does it mean in terms of your day-to-day practice that you should be doing? To what Jake said in our last one, our online professional development. We have webinars, live forums on a regular basis to make sure that we're able to get out information in a timely manner. And another way that we have been thinking about this work is how can we combine forces with those associations that have similar interests. There are a number of professional associations, a number of research organizations that all have a vested interest of many of the issues that we care about. So making sure that we're able to do that. And then we're also making sure that we continue to generate original research around critical areas. And so we are headed by Dr. Amelia Parnell, who is our VP of Research Policy. If you have never met her, you have to come back at the next open house to get an opportunity to meet her because she is a wealth of knowledge and she makes working on this team amazing. And so, but we're also joined by 10 other amazing people that we have broken down into a number of focus areas. So the first one is on policy and advocacy. We have 2 folks on that really is keeping the pulse on all those critical issues that's happening. I think if you're ever in a room with Terry Hines or Diana Holly, they are constantly on Twitter making sure seeing what the latest things are happening. We have a data analytics team. This data analytics team looks at data internally as well as externally. So internally, all our professional development events, making sure that we're up to speed or making sure that we're meeting the goals set forth in our strategic plan. But as we think about research and if we have our qualitative, quantitative surveys that go out, that's the team that puts in those numbers. We have a publication team. So they are the ones that manage our 3 scholarly journals. We have a magazine, the Leadership Exchange that goes out. They manage all of that. And then we have a research and practice team. And so the research and practice team, they deal with more of the special topics that happen. And so they take the lead at representing Naspa at conferences, taking the lead on writing different articles and things like that on some of the most current issues. And then the strategy and practice team that I get the opportunity to lead, we are pretty much the grant management and execution. So we have got to see the influx of grants from a number of funders that really deals with student success, right? So all of the things that institutions can do to support the retention, persistence, and ultimately completion of students. And so we have about 4 or 5 grants right now that we're running that will go a little bit more detail. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alexa to talk about our policy.
Policy and advocacy. So I take some notes because there's like a buffet of issues that we covered here. So our public policy division have put forward and developed these 5 areas that, based on our members' needs, they feel were more focused for us. Given today was Field Days and Student Affairs Day of Action, also with engagement, freedom of expression, we focused a lot on ways to improve or to facilitate these voter engagement and other ways to participate in campuses, and as well as how campuses can balance tensions between freedom of expression and speakers protest. We also focused a lot with student safety and wellness. With that, that covers giving assistance with compliance around regulations for various policies around mental health, sexual violence prevention, and responses as well as on campus. Like Omar mentioned, affordability, as well as our protections, in the sense that we care a lot about supporting policies that help students make the best decisions in terms of quality of education and value. They're investing, are they getting good completion outcomes? And addressing ways to be more transparent about innovation. With inclusive opportunities for access to success, here we focus on not only ensuring our students are safe, but that they are inclusive, especially the LGBTQIA community and students who are immigrants, as well as supporting diversity in terms of students of color and their success. And finally, with student success and college completion, that touched a lot of our work. It's really just addressing those equity gaps in completion for all students, but also for historically underserved students. And with this public policy agenda, most of our PI work falls under at least one or more of these priorities. More specifically, with our policy focus areas, given political climate, all of this changes, but given recent events, we've done a lot of work with Title IX, with DACA, immigration, forced free speech. Something that Diana Ali mentioned in our structure, she's our policy analyst on the team. She does a really great job of providing weekly policy updates, where she not only tracks these issues like state and federal legislation among these issues, and she also keeps an eye out for different policy articles out that week and offers her own summary of that with a student affairs lens, which is actually very helpful. Here, looking at the advocacy, we do not formally lobby on Hill, but we do offer strong positions on certain issues, but we don't always necessarily offer endorsement of certain legislation. It's kind of the difference between lobby and advocacy. But we do advocate on behalf of our members and their interests. Some ways we get across our opinion on issues is through we're signing off different letters, join different coalitions to think through issues. For example, we're a member of the American Council of Education Alliance to have, as well as more student affairs specific coalitions and even topic specific, like the Institute of Higher Education Policy Post-Secondary Data Collaboration. They focus a lot on data transparency in higher education. So kind of moving from the advocacy side, we are using our policy and advocacy and things to kind of convert that into practices on campuses. So first would be with the BPSA census. We look at how the leaders of student affairs discussion, how they change over time in terms of how they're structured. It's really useful as far as data visualization too, because it'll break down demographics of the leaders. For example, like how many women are in our BPSA compared to men or other things like that, or by race across different sectors as well. That's a really helpful resource. And with comprehensive learner records, this is something that Naspa is engaged with ACRO. They are an association for registrars who work with transcripts. This work where we've been trying to develop a new digital portable record, a way to express student learning inside and outside the classroom. While transcripts are important, they're not going to go away anytime soon. They're really valuable for institutions. They don't necessarily have the same value for students or even employers who are really trying to see what students actually know. Seeing like history, you know what I mean? Like the class courses don't necessarily tell you what that student learned. So here we're working with institutions to try to build up those records. And this is even helpful for students who are veterans or who have previous work experiences, because it's a way of articulating and validating that learning in a way that may not be already validated through a traditional academic transcript.
One thing that I want to highlight just a little bit on the comprehensive learner record that I think it is important that we talk about, like in the terms of what is NASPA's role in this, is not simply saying these are some of the things that you should be doing as an institution, but we're able to actually go out directly to the institution. They really problem solve with them. They really provide accessible assistance to them as they figure out what is the best platform, what is the best tool that they want to use to really capture student learning. And so for the team working on it, they get to really meet some great folks, work with a small sector of the campus in order to do it. How many people are familiar with emergency aid? All right, we got a few. All right, so this is something that I wish I knew when I was in college, but for those that don't know, emergency aid is something that institutions can offer students that have an unexpected financial crisis, right? So it could sometimes come in the form of a emergency loan. It can come as some type of completion scholarship. So if they're
They have like a $500 balance of their account, but they can't register or they won't be able to graduate. The campus will say, okay, here's $500, we'll just clear your account that way. Or it can come in a form of in-kind aid in terms of if it's going to be a food pantry on campus, it's a clothing pantry on campus, so that students can get the resources that they need. And so understanding this, back in 2015, Naspa did a landscape analysis to see like how widespread are these practices happening at an institution. And so through that, with about 600 institutions reported, we found out that a number of institutions are doing this, and they have been doing this for a number of years. And so what we have been doing now as Naspa is to say, okay, how can we now scale some of this up, or at least share this information out? So one of the ways that we have been doing that is to create an entire community of practice that's dedicated to emergency aid. And so what we're saying is, we call it studentarch.org, and so we're saying advancing retention in college. And this is an online repository of information where people can go learn more about emergency aid fundamentals, what are some of the tools and resources that we have available to them, stay up to date with others that are doing this information. And so we have a person on our team that is constantly in contact with institutions, figuring out what they're doing so that we can keep the site up to date. The latest research project that we're doing is on campus student employment. And so the reason why we're focusing on campus student employment is because we know through research we're saying that if done correctly, on-campus student employment can be a high impact practice. We know students will be able to stay at the institution, they'll have a better sense of belonging at the institution, and they'll also get a little bit of money for their pocket for it. So understanding that, we're trying to see how well, or what are some of the effective practices that are happening as it relates to student employment. So in our research, we have been able to talk to about 25 institutions, be able to do site visits with students, and now we have released a national survey with all of this information to say, like, how are institutions maximizing their student employment dollars to support retention? Because student employment is one of those things that we know happens at every single campus, right? And if we can use something that's already happening, not saying you have to create a whole new program, but it's something that there may be some small tweaks that you can do. What are those small tweaks that we can get more students involved in on-campus student employment? And so it's been fun talking. They are some of the most passionate people that you'll ever meet. The people that love student employment, they love student employment. And I didn't even know there was like a National Student Employment Association. There's so many organizations out here that's trying to promote the effective use of on-campus student employment. And so for those of you all that are on a college campus right now, if you can judge your BPSA really quick to say there's a survey in your inbox right now that we really need you to fill out, we would truly, truly appreciate it. And this last one piece of work that we have been doing is on advising, right? This is a new area for Naspa, but what we are doing now as it relates to advising is we are trying to support institutions that really want to do holistic advising. So understanding that advising is simply not saying you got to have the right psychology, or it's not simply helping a student select the right courses to graduate, but it's truly understanding what's the need of that student. How can we direct student support services needed so that they are successful at the institution. And so what we're doing, we are spearheading a national effort, and we are leading a network of organizations that all have a vested interest in this. And through this work, we're in the very beginning stages now of it. We are going, preliminary name, we can get a little inside group. I don't know if it's actually going to happen yet, but it's going to be Advise 360. So if you see that, that's a national run initiative. But what we're doing is, we know that there's so many pieces out there in the community about advising. But what we want to do is take the good of all these practices and find a way to really help institutions see themselves and develop their own roadmap. If we want to advise, if we want to reform our advising in our institutions, we want to make sure that students we are serving the whole student. What does it take in order to do that? And so we have a group of folks together in which we're going to figure out what is that solution, what are those assets, what are the resources that they need, and then be able to provide technical assistance to about 200 different institutions so that they can say they are achieving some of their student success metrics. And as we think about advising is one of those pieces that really capture all of these things that we were talking about, right? So if we do advising correct, we'll be able to document student learning in a way. If we do it right, we'll be able to point them in the right on-campus student opportunities. If we do it right, if they are experiencing financial crisis, we can address that in a more timely fashion. And so we really see this as one of the linchpins of really tying in all of the grant work, all of the initiatives that we have going on. All right. So sort of briefly just go in and say like, we just gave you a lot of information, but what does this mean for you as a student affairs professional, right? So one of the things we want you to do, so as you think about implementing any policy, any research practice that you see, one is just like understanding the landscape, staying up to date with the latest tools and trends, figuring out what does the landscape look like at your own campus, right? It may be different at that one after you raise Maryland and what it is at yours, right? So with that being said, what does it look like at yours? The second one is going to be find and use data in the best way possible, because you can't argue with that, right? So when you ever want to tell someone or help bring someone on, bring them the data to every meeting. The second one is prioritize. You can't do it all at once. He just gave you like 4 things, and it'd be hard to say that we have a initiative on our campus that we're going to do all of these things, right? But given what your students are, given what your data says, right, where should you focus on? The next one is that it takes a village, right? So don't do it alone. Be able to engage and mobilize the right folks at your campus. Remember to keep students at the center of the work, and then respect the institutional culture, right? So what may work at one institution may not work at another institution, and it's just important for the content. Any questions about that? So let's go do a little tips. What I wish I knew prior to starting my work life. But one thing I just want to remember is okay if you don't have it all figured out. I don't know anyone that I've met from a CEO level all the way down to an entry-level person that says, I know exactly what I'm doing. If they do, you should be very scared of that person. So like, you don't have to have it all figured out. Remember that, leadership happens at all levels, right? And so regardless of where you are, you may have to lead from the middle. So like, how are you going to help those above you understand what's needed? How are you going to help those that are at your level or maybe a level below you to say, these are some of the things that we need to do and how can you mobilize them? 2 essential skills that I think are really critical to anyone that wants to do this work. One is to be able to facilitate. One of the things that I've learned is that there is never a shortage of ideas or opinions on what should be done on a campus, right? But where the contention comes is like coming to consensus of what that thing should be, right? And gather all of those ideas. And so if you have that skill of facilitation, it's really critical there. The third one, in many of our classes in grad schools, for some reason they don't talk about project management. They say like, how are you really going to get the things done? Like really thinking about all the key pieces that need to happen. How are you going to create a plan? How are you going to get everyone on board, and how should you think of that going forward? The other one is don't discount your experience, right? Don't feel like you always have to go out and ask someone what the answer was something. Like just research and brainstorm some potential solutions for it, and then bring it to a large group. And the last one is find your happy, right? At life, at work, sometimes it can take you under just a little bit. It can get a little stressful. But if you find that one thing that you really love, so if you love talking, if you love data, if you love planning, if you love engaging with faculty, like try to keep that in your work. Okay.
So some of mine, since I'm a new professional, mine are more focused on transitioning from grad school into workplace. First tip would be to play out the New Year card, ask questions, take the time to learn about what everyone does, especially on your team, those around you. That can help later when you think about ways to collaborate. Even using your fresh eyes, even if you have worked before, using the process, what you know about process previous experiences or school to kind of offer questions for different ways to do things, or even offering different ideas in general. Leveraging existing resources, between when you're starting a new project, you don't always need to recreate the wheel. Dig into what's already out there. Leverage your more well-seasoned professionals in your office or on your team. And you're ultimately saving your energy for where you actually need to apply it, as opposed to sometimes you need to. Disconnect to reconnect. Yeah, so the work-life balance side of this, it's okay to step back from the work and break, article, walk, whatever it is. Sometimes that can also like just recharge and make you think of a different way of going about the issue that maybe you haven't thought of before, but you're just keeping your head down the whole time. Another aspect of this is, I don't remember right now, but sorry, another part is closing the loop. When you are speaking with someone other on your team internally, it's always good to let them know the outcome of the situation. But even if it's especially important externally, especially in our case, we got a lot of interviews. Going to the person afterwards and telling them what value they brought to the conversation and what maybe changed as a result of it is really valuable. And it's a good way of showing your gratitude of their time as well. So just saying thank you, it makes it a little bit more authentic. Building relationships, this is so important. In the previous presentation, I talked about it too, but with networking, higher ed is a very small world, especially in the higher ed policy world. So you never know when you're going to see someone again. And even once you build a relationship early on, if you ever do call them again, a little more authentic and a little awkward if you have a relationship. Something building on the mentors too. This is also mentioned, but I do think it's really important not only just to have aspirational mentors, but your peers as well, because they are in your cohort. I'm sure you'll see them again later in life. So, ways to stay connected with us. We have a variety of different resources. With our blogs, we have them weekly on Mondays. There, like I mentioned with Diana's policy updates. We do that on Mondays, and on Thursdays, it's usually different topical issue. It can be on one of these 5 areas that I mentioned earlier, or it can be on something different. Like I know I did a blog on the intersection of behavioral science and student affairs, like things you might not. It's a different way of framing an issue that maybe you saw before. We have these monthly public policy briefings. These are free professional development resource. We have regular quarterly white papers and other publications. Most recently, I did a 5 things brief on adult learners. So those come out about quarterly. So if you're there, and then as always, if you can be connected or if you have an idea for something to contribute, you can always tell Mari and I or someone else on the team, and we're always happy to hear ideas and collaborate. Thank you so much for your time today.
No, this is any questions. Great. So we're now towards the end of the day. So as we talked about, so this was the poll everywhere. For those of you that joined a little later, if there's any other things that you want to do to connect for NASPA, things that we're missing, reactions, thoughts. I'm not going to do the forced go around and everyone do a wrap up, but as we come close, any reactions to the day, feedback, areas we didn't talk about that you'd like maybe a little more information? I know we didn't necessarily have questions after the overview. Well, as you heard, the thunder did roll in, so we clearly are not going upstairs, but you're trapped here because it's still raining, I think. But we're gonna move into the social part and kind of tour of the area. We do have some raffles. I'm gonna see where Kylie might be running down. I think for those of you joining virtually, thank you for following. As Danny noted, we are doing it's going live on Instagram for the campus tour, so feel free to follow that if you'd like. Thanks, everyone.